Oh, let's go. It is Friday. Welcome to TPUSA Live. We are so glad that you're here. I'm John Root, sitting next to MAGA Hulk Stephen Davis. What's poppin'?
Oh, I'm loving it. I love a good daggone Friday. So I'm a happy man.
Wow, it's a beautiful look you got here. A little 50 Shades of Grey action. Wow.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Wow. Thank you.
PG version. Don't worry.
Definitely the PG version.
It's a kid show, kind of. We're not gonna get that crazy around here.
No.
We got Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec coming up next. He's been keeping you up to date with everything up north with the Freedom Convoy and the truckers. There's some new news out of that area that they're trying to haul some of those truckers away, and that there's a massive crackdown. So he'll break that down.
That's unfortunate. That is really unfortunate. Prayers go out to the Freedom Convoy out there in Canada. Stay strong.
Yeah, and I hope that everybody stays safe too, because it seems like a lot of the videos and photos I've seen, it seems like they've gotten along with law enforcement up north.
Yeah.
So I hope everything goes fine there, and but that's all they're looking for is to get rid of these mandates.
That's it.
Yeah, and then I know it's something I put out on Twitter as well. There's so many people out there that just get framed as an anti-vaxxer, but 99.9% of people, they're anti-vax mandates.
Exactly.
And they just think it like the vast majority of these truckers are vaccinated themselves. They just want freedom.
That's it.
Freedom to do what they want with their bodies. So Jack's gonna break that all down. It's gonna be amazing. Also, there is a sex scandal at SNL and Facebook. He's gonna break that down. It's gonna be a great show for you, so make sure you tune in. Right after that, stick around, because I'm gonna be with this guy. We got Drew Hernandez is gonna be back, and then Lily Stanley. Lily Stanley, she was on the Valentine's Day episode, part of the TPUSA media team. Definitely articulate, really fun to have her around. Welcome to the boys club.
Yes, indeed, the boys club, that's right.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. We did not get to Professor Watchlist yesterday because we had a lot of great conversations about race relations in America. So sometimes when you're rolling, you just got to keep the train going. You can't stop it. You can only hope to slow it down a little bit.
And we were going full steam ahead. Yes, indeed.
But you definitely need to know the newest members of the Professor Watchlist, because they're the worst. Terrible. Also, we're going to break down Showtime's racist documentary. Don't worry, I don't feel like a victim. I mentioned that yesterday.
There we go.
But I can't wait to hear what you and Drew and the rest of the crew have to say. And a little COVID crazy action. So obviously there's a lot of elitist hypocrisy. The Oscars coming up, we're being told that there's some rules that they don't have to follow.
Oh, rules for thee, but not for me. I get
shocker,
it.
Right?
Yeah, shocker.
But I think a lot of them are saying that they're holding their breath for the entire show.
Good luck.
There might be a lot of Hollywood people passing out. That actually might.
I'm not complaining about that at all.
What a performance that would be. But hey, a brand new episode of the Spillover that you can tune into right after us on the couch. So Alex Clark has Chrisi Hammer and Catie Bouchard on, and they're talking about interior design.
Oh.
How much do you know about that, Stephen?
Absolutely zero. Goose egg, nil, nothing.
Do you know how you can learn some more?
Listening to Alex Clark?
Yes, that is the correct answer, Stephen. That is exactly what you need to do. But they are conservatives in a very leftist space. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of times we're going to talk about, pop culture, sports, and Hollywood, and all this stuff. But when you talk about things like interior design, it's like, well, what does that space look like? And then Alex breaks it down. I guess she's also trying to do some stuff at her place.
Hey, why not?
She needs a little bit of help.
Spruce it up.
We could use a little bit of help too.
Always.
So Alex, send them our way. I would love to talk to them. And then right after that, you're getting some more Alex Clark. Yeah. You can't get enough of Alex Clark on a Friday, right?
Friday, absolutely.
Hey. It's a brand new episode of POPlitics. She's talking about Lauren Lane going off. So Chris Lane is a country music star.
Okay.
That I don't know if you've listened to a lot of Chris Lane, but you probably should.
I will then, yes, sir.
I'm going to send you my Spotify playlist, okay?
Want to just swap?
Yes, I would love that. Just give me some early 2000s hip hop for my country, and I'm in.
Okay.
Right? That'd be amazing. Also, too, there's a Yellowstone star that is skipping out on the SAG Awards because he does not want to get vaccinated. But obviously, he's being deemed as an anti-vaxxer.
Here we go.
But Yellowstone, what an absolute great show. And you love seeing stars like that stand up and be like, nah, that ain't going to happen. But hey, as we wrap up, any big weekend plans?
Sleep. A lot.
Okay.
A whole lot.
Well, best of luck in the dream world there, Stephen. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic weekend.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to celebrating one of my good buddies.
Oh, okay.
little engagement party. A little bit of golf, baby.
Oh, this guy's gonna get it in, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a long weekend. We got President's Day coming up on Monday, but great shows coming up next. Don't go anywhere, because coming up next, we got Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. Steven and I, see you soon.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily. Today's top stories, we're not going to sugarcoat it, folks. There is a lot going down in the world today. And the essential headline for all of this, I think especially for this first segment, remember Ottawa. Remember Ottawa. Well, the Canadian crackdown has begun as Trudeau has ordered a hauling away of the Freedom Convoy organizers. We'll break that all down next. Vice President Harris is heading to Europe amid the Ukrainian border crisis. Third, a Facebook manager of community development named Jaron Miles has allegedly been caught in a child sex ring. And finally, a woman is accusing SNL star Horatio Sands of underage grooming and sexual assault during the time he was on the show and has named Jimmy Fallon. All this and more ahead, Human Events Daily.
Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted that I find quite interesting.
Just back up, please. Just back up, guys. Thank you.
My coat's
me
wet.
too. And me. It's wet?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Sean Biden. Hold the line.
Officer, you gotta take me too.
So we are currently recording this episode on Friday. It's about Friday afternoon here in Washington, D.C., year of our Lord 2022, February. But events are ongoing in Ottawa, and we need to remember them. We need to remember every single thing, every tweet, every image. Sear it into your mind. This is the real world. This isn't going away. This isn't some TV show. This isn't Netflix. This isn't Amazon Prime. You can't skip ahead. You can't get to the next episode. No. The only way out is through. When the Freedom Convoy started, you saw those videos. One of the most inspirational things I think we've seen throughout all of COVID, right? These trucks, big, powerful semis, the ones that we depend on, for our food, for our supplies, clothing. It's all thanks to the truckers. And you see them on the highway and you know You say those guys are there getting to the market what we need to be able to live on a regular basis. That's all trucks. Hospitals, by the way, all those medical supplies, medical equipment, who do you think's bringing all that? Right, it's all trucks. Every single bit of it. And so when we saw them flying in Canada, of all places, that they would have these beautiful Canadian flags and people cheering on the highways and byways as they came from all across the provinces to Ottawa, to the capital of Canada, and said, we want our freedom back. We want you to lift these mandates. We want you to lift these restrictions. We just want freedom. We just want to go back to our lives. That's it. We just want to be left alone to go back to our lives. And people supported this. Well, now, the regime has responded. And I've said before, I keep saying this, we are living through an era of regime politics. And in war, the first casualty is the truth. Understand what's going on. You've got to put steel to spines at this point. Because if you thought this was just about the mandates, if you thought this was just about COVID, you haven't been paying attention. This is about power. This is about who gets to end the pandemic. This is about the way power flows. And Trudeau, he's a member of the party of Davos. So understand, he's not taking his marching orders from the people of Canada. He's not operating off the same playbook that any normal person who says, look, we need to de-escalate, we need to find some accommodation. Premiers across Canada, by the way, of individual provinces have already begun the process of dropping the mandates. So Trudeau easily could have said, it would take him 2 seconds. He loves being on Twitter. He could tweet, hey, we're working on a plan to drop the mandates. We're gonna come to turn the corner on COVID. This is all gonna go down. We appreciate your voice. We appreciate where you're coming from. We've all felt frustration with these lockdowns, but we do see the light at the end of the road. All you would have to say. All you have to say. That's what a leader would say. But a despot, a tyrant, Castro Jr., they would say something else. Ottawa police have announced, just moments before we started recording the show, reporters are being arrested or will be arrested if they're in the area of the Canadian capital, Parliament Hill. If children are there, they'll be taken away, but they'll be taken to safety, right? They'll take the children away. And that everyone there will be arrested the same way that the leaders of this were arrested, just like the CCP went after the leaders of the student protests in Hong Kong. Understand what part of the movie you're in.
Russia is clearly escalating. And as the president has said, American citizens need to leave Ukraine and take this seriously. Also, we as the United States have been very clear with Russia from day one practically on this issue that if Russia takes aggressive action and denies the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of Ukraine, we are prepared to take serious and swift and unified action.
Well, this is how you know that President Biden has lost Europe. He's sending Vice President Harris over there. We're told, by the way, that she's going to be meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine in Munich at this Munich Security Conference tomorrow, this Saturday. So, Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, is being given this. And remember, they are giving all of their failed policies to her. Remember, this was Kamala Harris, the same one that she was so upset when she didn't get to go to the G7, right? She's saying, well, you know, I've never been to Europe either. I guess she has, her little snarky comment when she was down to Guatemala. So the question now becomes, what is the White House going to do? Why is it that they're sending the JV squad to Europe right now, as opposed to anyone else? They are setting her up for failure. They are playing her. This is how you know that the Biden administration, they've lost. They've completely lost the plot with this Ukrainian border dispute. And I said before, and I say this again, in war, the first casualty is the truth. So yeah, there's shelling going on in eastern Ukraine. There's a vehicle that just exploded. Who did it? You don't know. And the media is trying to tell you they know. They're trying to tell you that there's a false flag that's imminent. How do you know a false flag is imminent? And if a false flag were imminent, wouldn't it be wouldn't it be more effective to say that a false flag was going to come, to leak that to the other side so that when something does happen, they read it the other way, or when it doesn't happen, you make them look. You see where we're going with this? You are seeing information ops on top of information ops. You're now starting to see evacuations take place in Donetsk, in that disputed border region, and it does look like some conflict is about to take place. We're not going to see the aerial bombardment of any of the major cities of Kiev. We're not going to see these massive, sweeping, tank invasions of Kiev the way that the media has been telling you. But understand what's going on here. This is brinkmanship. And the Biden administration doesn't know what they're doing. They're ratcheting up and escalating tensions. Why? Because they have no other option. Their failed policy agenda here at home, their failed polls in state after state after state where they're underwater on domestic issues. We're hearing now that in his upcoming State of the Union address, he's going to take credit, President Biden's going to try to take credit for defeating COVID, when we really know that it was Omicron that came through and swept around, giving natural immunity to millions and millions of people that really wound this entire thing down. That's what happened. That's the facts. That's the truth. That's, dare I say it, the science that took place. But President Biden desperately needs some kind of win. So he is poking the bear as hard as possible in Ukraine to try and start a proxy war with Russia in the middle of Eurasia in the dead of winter. Does that make sense? No. And the same way that I said that if it made sense for Trudeau, a statesman, a true statesman would say, let's come to some kind of accommodation. Obviously, there is a dispute here. Let's talk about the issue. Let's figure a way out. But that's not what he wants. And this isn't what President Biden wants here. That's why they're sending Kamala Harris over to go and deal with this thing. Yeah, she's really going to scare the Russians, right? So you've got this region, of course, that's caught in the middle. Children, families, women, elderly, that are caught in the middle. They're now being evacuated out to Russia. What's going to happen next? It's anyone's guess, because you're seeing people move in there, the same people in many cases that were involved in Syria. And the first thing that was lost, the first casualty of Syria, even before ISIS, was the truth. The way we armed the moderate rebels and worked with them. And we would never, ever arm or fund terrorist groups. No, just moderate extremists. Moderate extremists. And to this day, people in the United States have no clue what's going on in Syria and didn't have any clue until people went in and cleaned it up. We saw that with the previous administration, got rid of ISIS. What is about to break out next in Ukraine is anyone's guess. But we do know one thing. There's one thing we do know. It's not peace. And that's what President Biden, what Kamala Harris, what all of these people should be trying to achieve for the world. But in the same way, natural immunity doesn't pay the bills. Peace doesn't pay the bills. The contractors, big pharma, etc., they don't get paid if there's peace. They don't get paid if people are healthy. So what do you need? You need conflict. You need tension. That's what ratchets up ratings, by the way, for the media, going all the way back to the Spanish War. Understand what part of the movie you're in. And ladies and gentlemen, you're in a movie. Well, MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell was not able to make it across the border into Canada. He was trying to get up there to support the truckers. He's now talking about potentially even doing, I know, crazy enough, an airdrop of pillows into Ottawa to support the truckers. We're not sure what's going on, but I do know one thing. Mike Lindell is on the right side of history about this. So if you want to be on the right side of history as well, you go to mypillow.com/POSO. You go, you support what he's doing, support the truckers, get a great pillow, a great product for yourself. And by the way, one of your loved ones, if you want to donate something, we're donating some pillows again to the church right now. Just talked to my wife, Tanya, about that. And there's also great products. You got the robes, you got the sheets, you got the slippers. Winter is here. Winter is here, and you need to upgrade your sleep system for your warmth and for your comfort now. This next story, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even really sure how to prepare you for this one because it's horrific. And I wish today were a better news day, but it's just not. It's just not. But I'll read the headline, and then we're going to play this harrowing and very disturbing video. And I'm not even being sarcastic. This isn't actually a disturbing video. From postmillennial.com. A Facebook executive has been fired after he was allegedly caught in a child sex sting in Columbus, Ohio. And we have this on video.
So you're telling this 13-year-old boy that he makes you horny, correct?
Could be perceived as such, yes.
Oh, quit the bullshit, bro. I'm sick of your bullshit.
Good. I won't have any restraint around you if I'm horny. What does that mean?
It means I was flirting, I was talking to him. Throughout all of this, I'll let you know there was never any intention of ever meeting up with him.
Okay.
Bro.
But you did set 2 meets with him.
That I never intended to go to or
but you set
show
it
up
up
to.
Correct?
And I gave information and location and all that stuff. Yes, it
I mean,
can
how
be
did I
perceived as
find you? It's not like I just pulled this out of my...
It's true.
You gave the hotel and the hotel room.
Right.
So you set the meets. So you're okay with talking sexual online as long as you don't meet the children?
This is the one time I've done this.
The only time. Okay, so you are okay to talk sexual to 13-year-old Corey because you knew in your head that you would not meet up with him.
That was my rationale.
Miles, we're told, Jaron Andrew Miles of Palm Springs, California, allegedly sent explicit text messages to a 13-year-old boy and made plans for the boy to meet him at Le Meridien Columbus Hotel. Miles was the manager of community development at Meta/Facebook until a spokesperson for the company confirmed that Miles is, quote, no longer with the company. According to the video, an anti-pedophile activist group busted him at the hotel, where he there then agreed to give an interview to try to talk his way out of this. You hear him, I was flirting, there was no intention, there was no talk. This guy, Jaron Miles, serves on the board of directors for the LGBTQ+, make sure don't forget the plus, group, Equality California. He has since deleted all of his social media accounts from LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Previously worked as the director of community affairs for Lyft, and we do have an archive of this site. He was, just all over the place. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the people that are staffing Silicon Valley. These are the people who are behind the screens that are supposed to be protecting. Keep in mind, if he's at Meta, that means he's Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. And this is your overall executive for these departments. Why is it that we trust our children with these platforms, that we allow people to go on there, and yet you've got guys like this at the very top who, if this is true, should be arrested immediately, and every single piece of his work should be investigated? And not just, one of these internal Mark Zuckerberg investigations. Mark Zuckerberg is trying to institute the metaverse. Apparently Meta means I met a teen in a hotel room, because that's what they're doing at Meta. Are you really gonna let your kids sign up for that when it's controlled by people like this? And I understand what's gonna happen. People are gonna say, oh, it's just one guy, it's no big deal. Understand what they're trying to connect you to.
We got in a lot of trouble too on the show. Do you remember the writers' table, the writers' party? It was the last writers' party. I don't think they're allowed to have them anymore.
I don't think you could party on 17 anymore because of what happened.
Dude, it was
what you did.
Is that me?
Yeah.
You broke a rib.
I broke a rib, but do you know why?
I think so.
Okay, let's explain what we were doing up there. We were letting off a little work steam.
Yeah.
Because it was the last week of the show, and we have a writers' party on Wednesday, right? Or I don't know if they still do, but they used to. And so it was just us and a few friends, and then we just get really, really drunk. Even Tina got drunk, who doesn't really drink.
No, yeah.
I guarantee you will not see this story trending on Twitter. You won't see it trending anywhere across social media. Why? Because when powerful names of those individuals like Alec Baldwin, or in this case, Jimmy Fallon, are involved, that are protected by the Blue Cathedral, then those social media platforms, which are also tied to the same power structure of the regime, they will not be targeted the same way that you or I or anybody else would be, or Charlie, Andy No, etc., James O'Keefe. Here's the headline from Daily Mail. He abused me all over SNL. Woman who accused comedian Horatio Sands of grooming her when she was 15 before sexually assaulting her, age 17, at an SNL after party, claims that Jimmy Fallon was aware of their inappropriate relationship. Horatio Sands' accuser, known as Jane Doe, speaks out for the first time about alleged sexual abuse since filing a lawsuit last year. Doe, who lives in Pennsylvania, filed the complaint against Sands and NBC, claiming the SNL alum sexually assaulted her when she was 17 in 2002. She said he would bring her to these parties, the same ones that you just heard Horatio Sands and Jimmy Fallon talking about, and that they knew she was underage, and specifically that Jimmy Fallon knew that she was underage. But this is back in the early days of the internet, early 2000s. There would be these chat groups and these message boards, and people would go on, and if you were a super fan of Saturday Night Live, this was Saturday Night Live towards the, I wouldn't say its heyday, but towards the end of its heyday, right? It was still quite a cultural force, not the way it is now. Where Saturday Night Live is seen as a punchline now because it's not a cultural force anymore, it's a political force. It was seen as, some honor or some respect that you would be chosen to be able to actually participate in a cast party. So of course, this is what they do. They target the same thing that we see Hollywood do for years. They target young, impressionable people, teenagers, girls, people who are ambitious, people who want to get ahead, people who are trying to find their way into the industry. We saw Epstein do this. We saw Weinstein do this. And according to this lawsuit, which of course is still alleged, we hear this is what Horatio Sands was doing. They actually had text messages from Horatio Sands or instant messages where he was basically confirming that the person that he was talking to, despite having chat logs from the early 2000s documenting her conversations with Sands, her friends' witness accounts, and even Sands' alleged confession, the actor still has not been held to account for his actions. Sands appeared on the NBC staple of Saturday Night Live from 1998 to 2011. In recent years, he's been seen in films including Clifford, Zeroville, The Sex Addict, Actors Anonymous, and TV shows such as The Mandalorian. Well, it certainly wouldn't be the first time that Disney employed a pedophile. Now, I'm not saying that he is, but I'm saying that's certainly what he has been accused of. Again, Hollywood protects their own. The Blue Cathedral protects their own. And that's why you have to fight back and expose these people. Huge week here at Human Events Daily. Now more than ever, we are bringing this to you. Look, it's getting tough to find only a couple of stories a day because I've made this promise to all of you every day, right? A promise, our oath, our solemn vow. Be good, be brief, be gone. But I gotta tell you guys, it is not easy to be able to compact everything that's going on in the world into just 25 minutes. And that's why it's so important that you get your daily briefing every day and then you share it out with one of your normie friends, right? Leave us your 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, etc. This is all signal. There's no noise here. But before we go, there's one thing we have time for. Today's history break. Today, February 18th, 1980. Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, won his last election, federal election in Canada, becoming prime minister. Like father, like son. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
All right, guys, you have signed up, right? You've joined freedomsquare.com. If you haven't, why not? This should have happened a decade ago. How did somebody not think of this earlier? If you're a business owner, we have a business directory to promote your business to patriots across the nation. So if you want to buy American, if you want to sell American, we have a business directory. Whatever it is, go now.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
And we are out. So ends today's transmission of Human Events Daily from the regime-occupied National Capital Region. We turn it over to the free state of Arizona as Turning Point Live continues from the couch. Take it away, John.
Hey, thanks, Jack. Once again, happy Friday and welcome to Turning Point USA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. Here's what we're covering today. First, Victoria's Secret is featuring a Down syndrome model and more in the daily briefing. Next, some rules for thee and not for me for Hollywood elitists at the Oscars. Who would have thought, right? Then we react to Showtime's racist documentary, Everything's Gonna Be All White. That's gonna be a good time. Finally, we'll introduce you to the newest members of the Professor Watchlist, followed by one of the biggest problems facing America and one last thing. All right, the wait is over. TPUSA Live from HQ starts now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
Hi everybody, welcome back to TPUSA HQ. This is TPUSA Live from the couch. Drew Hernandez, investigative reporter, and our newest TPUSA contributor. It's Maven.
Let's go.
He's also, too, if you did not see our IG Live earlier today, got a new show coming out.
Yep.
2/22/22.
It's coming, Frontlines is coming next week, and it's going to be amazing, and it's been made public that Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be our first guest. A lot of people have been wanting to see me and him on camera go over, you know, what was going on in my mind during the trial, what was going on in his mind during the trial, and he has some big announcements that are coming in. We kind of alluded to that on our live stream, so if you guys want to know a little bit more, go to the live stream right now. On the TPUSA main account on Instagram. You guys can see all those details.
At Turning Point USA, go, and it's a good time. Influencer Media Administrator Lily Stanley's back. What's going on?
How are you, John?
I'm great. I'm glad that we're like sharing the show now, because when you were here, it was Valentine's Day and I was gone.
Yeah, Isabel was great, but this will be great.
Oh, appreciate that. MAGA Hulk Stephen Davis, what's going on? Another great T-shirt.
Yes, just stand for it. At the end of the day, just stand for it. Come on now, get your act together and stand for it. Oh.
Here's a few pieces of news for you in this daily briefing. There was news that came out that Victoria's Secret, for the very first time, has a Down syndrome model. So her name is Sophia Hirao. We actually got a photo of her right there. And I think it was an amazing piece of news, too, because I think there's this whole aspect, I think Victoria's Secret and the whole industry is just rethinking what beauty is. What was your first reaction to that?
Well, I had two mixed reactions. My initial reaction was out of like protection for her, where I know unfortunately sometimes autism is like has been fetishized, and so seeing her in that state, I just immediately was like, I want to make sure that she's doing that by her own choice. Yeah. Right. That was my initial reaction, and then my second reaction was just thinking about all of like the pro-choice lefties who have just been so have been working very hard to remove the rights of like autistic people and with the whole abortion lobby and whatnot. So I just want them to be consistent. I'm very happy for her. I'm proud of her. That is a huge development in that community for sure. But let's just be consistent and worship their life from beginning to end rather than celebrate them in this state and then also fight for their life to just not be allowed. I don't know. I was a little confused, but proud of Victoria's Secret at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then I think we just start digging into that story a little bit more. She's a 24-year-old Puerto Rican model, been working her way up the modeling scene to get to where she's at too. So like, I'm with you. There needs to be some consistency there, but my first initial reaction was a little bit like yours, but I'm like, I think this is great. Like, it's a lot better than what Adidas is doing, I'll tell you that.
Oh my gosh. Number one, I'll take that over a dude showing up in lingerie on Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
100%.
That's just me.
I think that's a lot of people.
But I agree with your point. That's actually a very interesting point, where you have these pro-choice groups that have no problem slaughtering babies in the womb and not giving an opportunity for the future of a human being to become something that the world may have never expected.
Well, it's specifically advocating to be able to know whether or not somebody has autism before they're born so that they can know whether or not they want to terminate that pregnancy. And we've seen plenty of people with autism come out and say, like, I have the right to be here like anybody else. This is harmful. So it's just interesting to see those same groups advocate for this now. And so it's just, but they live to be hypocritical. So that's all. But I appreciate
this is why it's important that a baby has the opportunity to be born, because a baby is a life in the womb and obviously outside the womb. But we never know what that baby might become just because someone says outside, well, they might have like a horrible future and they may not. I mean, that was Margaret Sanger's entire reason for killing babies, murdering babies. We have no idea who these little babies might become someday, and I think this is. I love that point.
Have you guys ever been to Special Olympics at all?
No.
I was heavily involved in Special Olympics Northern California when I was living up there, and these are just some of the nicest, most energetic people, and just to think that we are now in a day and age where someone says, I want to figure out whether my kid has Down syndrome or not, and whether
They're afraid
I
of the
value
burden. They think it's a
enough to have-
burden. Yeah,
And,
exactly.
like, these people are incredible. And like I saw, like I've seen some incredible athletes in my life, but I see that, and that just provides you just so much joy to see them all together presented for that weekend at different events, to be able to showcase their skills.
Yeah.
Because they are able to do a lot. A lot of people try to say disability, but the ability for them to bring so much joy to people every single time, it's absolutely
It's just interesting.
incredible.
Sophia might not have ever been the first one. Maybe there would have been one before her, but unfortunately, because of the pro-abortion lobby, we would have never known that. So big win, but I just wish they'd be more consistent.
Another big piece of news before we go to the commercial break is Enes Kanter Freedom. You've probably heard us talk about him. He's been adamant about just fighting against the CCP and human rights violations over there. He got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow. Fantastic.
So that was absolutely incredible. I know he said on Twitter, I'm honored and humbled to receive the nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. Sometimes taking a stand is more important than your next paycheck. And you got to remember, too, he got traded to the Houston Rockets, and then they let him go. So he's out of the NBA right now. But he's met with a lot of politicians. He's doing great work. Wow. You got to respect it. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
Good Ranchers, straight from the American farm. 100% American meat, 100% of the time. Delivered straight to your door.
Wait, are those my Good Rancher steaks? I'll be taking these.
Claim your 10 free bistro fillets with your next order with promo code TPUSA Live at goodranchers.com.
Well, recently, Dr. Zelenko joined us on TPUSA Live to talk about his experience as a doctor in New York during the pandemic, learn more information about COVID-19 treatments and what could have been done better. A lot. Dr. Zelenko wants to remind you all that his vitamin supplement Z-Stack supports and promotes a healthy immune system and lifestyle. Plus, get this, Drew, it's made in the USA.
Oh, there you go.
You gotta love that. Get yours today at zstacklife.com/TPUSA. Again, that's zstacklife.com/TPUSA. I know we've done segments like this before, but COVID crazy. Things are just out of control. I know we talked about that in the open of the show, Stephen, about how there's a rules for thee, well, not for me. We have not heard yet if elitists in Hollywood will be holding their breath the entire time during the award show or not. But we do know if LA Mayor Garcetti is going to be there, he will.
Correct.
He did a great job at the Rams parade.
He did. He can
was-
hold whole conversations with his while holding his breath. It's remarkable.
That's a skill.
That's total science right there.
That's
you
all
want to
the
escape
science.
COVID and protect yourself from COVID. Just hold your breath and it's all over.
Well, I think Babylon Bee did it best. They never missed. They had a picture of all the elitists at the Super Bowl, and they said Hollywood elitists figured out how to wear like an invisible clear mask that no one can see. Yeah, and to market it at the Super Bowl is just so funny. It's so true.
But the reason we bring up the Oscar is there's going to be those Hollywood elitists that do not have to check their vax cards at all, and they're not going to be forced to wear masks at all. But there's going to be certain people in the audience and in the crowd that are going to have to.
Of course. They're the peasants. They're the plebes.
Exactly.
You know, that's expected. I mean, the lack of humility. I mean, you can see the photos of them on the carpet, and all of their workers and help behind them are all masked up. I mean, how what were you just not self-aware? Like I would feel so convicted to like not acknowledge that. Like, hey, these are the protocols that are, but they don't say anything. They revel in it. They love it. It's so embarrassing.
That's why it's the Hunger Games. It was like one of the first few months of the show. I think we had Benny Johnson on, and he was saying like, this legitimately is the Hunger Games.
Yeah, well, I know the author of the Hunger Games actually took a lot of inspiration from communist North Korea. So it's like that's what you
Suzanne
start to
Collins
see.
there?
Yeah, like and happen in real time, but it's like a real thing. It's not something that's a conspiracy theory where like tyranny is like unveiled on the people. And the perfect word is peasants. Like when we're talking about people with this elitist mindset, to me it's just shocking that you see people that watch this stuff and they're just like totally okay with it, don't even notice it, and they're just like, oh, well, yeah, you know, Brad Pitt's a god, so I guess it makes sense. I mean, I just think it's ridiculous.
It really is bizarre. I mean, it just goes to show that it's really, in our world today, celebrities are people's idols, which is just so peculiar. Like these people who have completely different lives than you, live completely different lifestyles, access to things you can't even imagine, and so they're able to make these mass gestures of hypocrisy, and they're still put on a pedestal. I mean, their viewership is tanking, but I mean, they still have a platform of sorts, and it's so interesting. I mean, we even saw with AOC, who then made us feel like the bad guys for saying something about her going to these events. Like, do you not understand how expensive your ticket was to go there? They don't think that far. They don't have any sort of intellectual honesty. This is fun for them. And the difference really comes down to they just think they're better than everybody else. I really do think that's what it is.
And that's how you know it's political, because they do it with everything, even like climate change.
Everything.
The same people that preach to us like lower your carbon footprint are the same people like flying private jets around the entire world with these giant gas bills.
Leonardo DiCaprio, you know, has this big old yacht. You know, all this.
John Kerry literally said, "This is the only way to get around for people like me." So they know it. They're accepting it. They're putting it in our face. They don't even try to hide it. They literally think that they are better than us and therefore don't have to follow the rules.
Well, that's why aren't people like us, or just in the general public, why aren't those type of people calling these people out? Because this is blatant. This is in your daggone face. How do you not see that? How do you not recognize the fact that there's rules for thee and not for me? How are you okay with that in the first place? So I'm just so confused. Why is this, you know, people like us who are always speaking out against this, but why aren't the general public, why aren't other people raising hell when it comes to situations like that?
I have an idea, Stephen.
Break bread.
Let's go.
Nobody watches it. So there's a lot of times where people like, where you're going to hear it on this show, and you might hear it just other like conservative outlets, but I mean, you talk about ratings tanking, like no one sees it. But the people that do see it need to speak up, like you said.
Well, I think it's kind of how we've gotten to this entire situation thus far. Like the past 2 years, I think people are passive. Not only are people on the left super passive and they welcome and encourage this type of hypocrisy, but there's many conservatives that are just passive. They just think that this is the way it is and we got to do it to get through it, and it's simply not true. Like I've said 100 times, this stuff will stop when we just stop complying. And if they had some balls enough to start calling this out and stick with it and run with it instead of roll over in their grave as if nothing can change, then nothing is going to change, and we're going to be in the same situation in 2 years. It's
you always had really good responses. That's what, like, ever since I've been here for about a year and we've worked together, you've talked about, like, here's my responses to people that just try to attack me when I don't wear a mask at, like, a restaurant or something like that. Like, you have some go-tos, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, well, so it was funny because I did Instacart grocery delivery through the pandemic. Like, I was making money by being an essential shopper, and it was so fun, but it was so funny because people would freak out, and I don't know, my favorite was, like, if your mask is on, then you should be good, right?
Right,
But,
absolutely.
you know, that requires too much science. Anyway, I mean, it's just incredible. These elites, the problem is we need a cultural shift and for people to stop idolizing celebrities. That is the problem. And again, you're not the resistance if you hold the same opinion as the mainstream media, the celebrities, the institutions, the professors. You're not the resistance. So I don't know why they think they're doing something. Like, it's so weird. But it's simply like we're only going to repeat the same cycle unless we just stop. So I don't know. Conservatives especially need to get a grip and have some more guts.
Well, it goes to show, too, I know we were talking about economy and crisis the past few days and how there's inflation and just like gas costs more, groceries cost more, everything costs more. But you know who it's not affecting is these leftist politicians in power that are telling you to trust the science, and these Hollywood elitists. Remember when some people in Hollywood, they had that like compilation of like 20 different actors and actresses that were just like from their ivory towers, like basically singing this song, like, what a wonderful world, where it's like, we just go through this for a little while.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're
very
doing this from
dystopian.
from your mansion,
Yeah.
while someone is just, they have no idea how they're going to pay for gas. They have no idea how they're going to pay for groceries.
Just
they
get
just
a
got let
margarita.
go.
Just get a margarita.
Oh, yeah.
Taking
And kickbox. Boom. And we're set.
I mean, this is just nothing new. This is how it's been in history for hundreds, thousands of years, where you have the elite at the top and you have the peasants at the bottom. I think if you take a look at the grand scheme of things, I mean, this is like a globalist agenda that's unveiling across the entire world, and they want a two-tier system where it is the people at the top and it is the peasants at the bottom, because that's easily controllable.
For
When you have a centralized group of people in a society that are dependent on you for everything, literally everything, they're easily controllable. And I think that's why we're starting to see this push for like totalitarian globalism in the United States as well. I mean, speak of that, look what's happening in Canada. If you can get an entire group of people that can be controlled mentally and also physically, then you're not going to have a problem. But you have the fringe minority in Canada, right, that are demanding freedom. What happens? The police state cracks down on them. And even as I speak right now on Twitter, videos are going viral of literally Trudeau's, Prime Minister Trudeau's stormtroopers arresting peaceful protesters.
Right.
Why? Because they want freedom. But that's the mentality we're talking about, the
Right.
elites and the peasants.
Right.
And there is no freedom for the peasants.
Makes
in the
me
mind
so
of the elites.
thankful to have some like basic Bill of Rights here in America, because theirs is a lot different, and it's just terrible what's happening over there.
I talked to my family, that like my brother and his wife, they've escaped Australia now.
Yeah.
But he brings that up all the time because people love crapping on America in so many different places around the world. But he's just like, guys, we don't have a Bill of Rights. Like, we don't have a Second Amendment here. Where it's just like you're crapping on this place, and sure, there's a few things you could pinpoint, but don't act like this is some sort of just oasis that we're living in here, where it's like you have no power compared to a place like America, where people are finally awakening again and just saying like, oh, I got power. Like, shout out to all the kids at Del Oro High School in Loomis, California, my alma mater. I had a bunch of kids send me videos, and they did a walkout today. They told me there was about over 200 students, and they ended up walking through the offices too, and they're just like, we're sick and tired of this, and kids are stepping up across the country. These high school students are absolutely incredible. The truckers up north are incredible, and they're doing more to end these vaccine and mask mandates than basically anybody I've seen in power.
It's just like exhausting. It's really exhausting. Like I was talking to Tim Pool. I was on his show a couple nights ago, and he's just like exhausted too. It's like being a part of the news cycle, constantly talking about this, constantly dealing with these people, but we have to, right? But it's just like, if America is such a terrible, disgusting, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, the list freaking goes on, right? If it's such a horrible place, why is the entire world constantly, consistently trying to get here, both legally and illegally? Because if this country was so bad, there wouldn't be millions of people every single year, day in, day out, trying to get into the United States of America. But the reason why is because we are still the beacon of freedom and hope.
The Floridians are not flooding to Cuba ever. And as you mentioned with totalitarianism, a big piece of that is that of eliminating that middle class is this big cultural war that they're putting us all through. You know, a people that are all happy cannot be controlled. There has to be strife and anger. So not only is it top down with the medical industry and gas and the money in the economy, but it's just making me and you angry at each other all the time. That's what they want. Everybody has to be mad at one another. Now it's this whole race war constantly. Any way that they can sow division and hatred into the streets is going to work better for their agenda. And that's why it's so top down from the media. I mean, all we're hearing all the time is hatred. And look at what's happening. People hate each other. People can't get along. So you're easily controlled that way. It's a smoke screen. You can't focus on what's happening into your bank account or in your child's education because you're too busy working out how you're going to get to dinner with your aunt next week because she posted something that, it's like, it's just horrible.
Yeah, they want to destroy us from the inside. And a lot of times people are just buying into it. Too. Like, I know we had conversations after the Thanksgiving and Christmas break about, man, there's a lot of people, you watch the show, us included, you've had really tough conversations with friends, family, and I mean, hopefully some of those have led to some sort of common ground, or at least like agree to disagree, but a lot of this has become so emotional for so many people, and we're just getting divided from the inside. And you know who loves seeing that? Russia, China, North Korea,
Oh, for
all of our
sure.
enemies, they're just like, we don't even have to do anything.
Eating it up.
Like,
Just watch
you
them
guys
implode.
just take out each other from the inside. But I think a lot of this conversation comes down to, like, we just want choice. Just freedom of choice what to do with our body. And that's what I would tell Joy Behar. It's just like, if you want to wear a mask the rest of your life, do it. Check out this video.
Personally, I listen to the little voice in my head that doesn't really follow 100% what they tell me because they keep changing it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, very short time ago, they were saying put the N95 masks on, and now they make sure it's and now they're saying you don't have to wear them anymore.
Yeah.
So if I go on the subway, if I go in a bus, if I go into the theater, if I go into where else would I go?
A crowded spot.
A crowded place, I would wear a mask, and I might do that indefinitely. Because why do I need a flu or a cold even?
Right.
That's
and
true.
so I'm listening to myself right now. I sort of, I mean, I don't think it's 100% safe yet.
See, that's ridiculous. I've been saying this for a long time. The mask is the left version of the MAGA hat, right? It's their way of identifying, you know what I mean?
It's a virtue signal.
It 100% is. You know, because you look at the science, we've been told about what the mask does and what it doesn't do, the type of protection it provides and what it doesn't provide.
Right.
And then you look at a lot of these leftists, they don't want to give up the mask. Why? Because it's going to be obvious it's going to be more obvious that they're just one of us.
And they've
right?
said that. I've been told that. Like, I was told that on my college campus. Like, being a Division I athlete through COVID, let me tell you, it's hell. It was awful. It cost me my sport. I had to quit. And that is how it goes, where people literally want to wear it so that they just don't look like a conservative.
That's it.
Like, they're like, oh, I'm triple vax. I don't care. I'm wearing it because I don't want to look like you.
That's what was crazy to me when, I don't know if people saw Dave Portnoy talking to Midas Touch, the people that work together with the group to send out the N-word video of Joe Rogan. And they were trying to tell Dave Portnoy that COVID, they tried first saying that COVID wasn't political. And then when he caught them in that lie a little bit, I think he should have pushed harder, but he was saying like, what? What do you mean? They're like, oh, well, actually, yeah, it was political, but it was everybody on the right and President Trump that made it political. It's like, really? Like, look at what you're dealing with right now. Remember the guy said he's not going to shut down the economy, he's going to shut down the virus?
Well, the problem with these people
out?
is they're just committed to misunderstanding.
Yes, they are.
Same thing with the mask science, okay? I'm sorry, science doesn't change. It wasn't the science that changed, it's your theories and the politics. They're committed to misunderstanding, they cannot be wrong, and that is the problem, and we see them jumping all over the place all the time.
Yeah, and then I'll give you the final thing.
You know, doctrine leads to behavior. And when you study cults, there's all kinds of aspects when it comes to cults, right? They have their doctrines, they have their leaders, they have their behaviors, they have their lifestyles, and they also have their enforcement and even specific clothing that must be worn.
That's true.
This is why we call it the mass formation cult, because these people demand that you wear a specific piece of clothing on your face in order to be accepted in society, and it's regulated. It's a cult.
It is a cult.
It's a cult.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. And then obviously, too, you got a lot of people telling you, like, what is about health and safety, what is the moral thing to do. You also got a lot of people saying that blame everything on white people. There's a new Showtime documentary about that. We'll break it down next in 90 seconds.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
TPUSA Live is about to be spicy. I mean, would you expect anything less? It's me, Alex Clark. Of course it's gonna be spicy. Tune into the Spillover, my brand new podcast. Think of it like the older sister to POPlitics with a lot more conservative.
What's up, guys? My name is John Root, and every week I'm breaking down the top stories in sports and bringing you conversations you won't hear anywhere else. It's gonna be a great time here on Breaking. Back to TPUSA Live. Lily Standley, MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis. I'm John Root, and that is Drew Hernandez. Once again, his show Frontline's coming out 2/22/22. That is next Tuesday. I know we were just talking about COVID crazy. Before we get into this racist documentary from Showtime, you have one more thing to say.
There's this, I don't know if people saw this at Congresswoman, well, it wasn't her rally. AOC was kind of showing up for somebody in San Antonio, and one of my buddies on the ground actually captured one of her supporters with a sign that with a mask on, right, that literally said "Gas the unvaxxed," okay, and it had a little Nazi symbol, and I didn't think it was real at first.
Me
I was like,
neither.
"Hey, is this actually a real person, bro?" I was like, "Yeah, I talked to her and everything. This is real."
It's like a full,
and,
2.5 minute clip. Like, I watched the whole thing. I was like, yeah, she keeps doubling down. There's a few people that come in just like, oh, she doesn't represent us, and like you think that she would like back down, and she's like, no, I think so.
No, they're totalitarians. They don't do that. Yeah. Wow.
It's insane.
It's all we've been saying all along. It just reeks of Nazi Germany, so now they're just telling us that. So that's great.
That's always good, too.
We'll start the segment with, I just apologize to everybody for just me, like just the way I look.
Me as well.
Obviously,
I'm sorry
just like
for existing.
Lily and
As you
I
should
do
be.
want to apologize to everyone, even though I don't think we did anything to you specifically, but that's what Showtime wants you to do. They want you to think that people like Lily and I, we are the problem. They have a documentary film called Everything is Gonna Be All White. We got a video from that. Check it out.
I think what annoys me most about white people is when they pretend like they're the victim. What's also annoying is when they kill us.
What is fragile about whiteness when everything has been constructed around it?
I'm so
Is
triggered
this a
right now.
real thing?
It's a real
show.
It came out 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
It came out 2 weeks ago, and you see the kind of rhetoric that they're using in this, like, you think that's why there's like the deconstructionists that think like this is so important.
Yes.
We are going to tear these people down. We're going to tear down the foundations of America because there's just racism inside of that. It's just there to just make sure that white people are propped up. And that's it. Like I was talking about, I know it was yesterday's show. Yeah. Talking about like, dude, I don't feel like a victim when I see something like that. But also too, I see a lot of nonsense. And like,
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna lose sleep over this.
Am
but
I crazy to just think that everybody is responsible for their own actions? Like,
Not at all.
Like they claim to not be the tribalists, but like if you're gonna bunch everybody into one group for some one person or one timeline's actions, I mean, that is just terrible. And they're claiming this is like not a racist thing. I'm sure they're saying this is just the way it is. And didn't they feature Ibram X. Kendi on it as well?
Yeah,
who
Ibram X.
literally
Kendi.
said the only solution to segregation is segregation today, and the only way to prevent that is segregation in the future. Am I missing something, Drew? Am I missing?
No, and I want to, Stephen, I'm going to give this one to you.
What are we missing?
Hold on. Let me make this point, and I'm gonna lay this up for you.
Okay.
Here's a
Give me that
layup,
alley-oop.
right?
You know what I'm saying?
It's funny because you see in that clip they say, you know what's really bad is when white people kill us. Who's really who? Let's talk about the crime rate, Stephen.
Right.
In the black community, who's really killing black people more? Is it white people or black people?
It's this skin color. Yeah. Killing this skin color. Okay, let's be real. Let's be honest about the daggone fact stats and daggone data when it comes to this type of foolishness. Are you kidding me? We're going to talk about the drop in the bucket as opposed to the deluge that's coming out. We can't eat. It's so frustrating. You were just talking about Ibram X. Kendi. Of all people talking about this foolishness, same thing with Linda Sarsour. She's on this thing, a vicious anti-Semite.
Wow.
But they get to speak on racism. Why is it always the racists that are always telling us that we're racist? It's like they're projecting all of their foibles, all their flaws onto us.
Because they changed the definition of racism.
Yes, they did.
It's no longer about skin color doing things. It's about a power struggle.
Yes.
So therefore, it cannot ever be the minorities, no matter what type of minority it is, creating problems against each other. Like James Klug just did a video in the streets about this, asking people, and they're saying, no, it's a power struggle. So therefore, the Asians, the Hispanics, the African Americans cannot be the ones causing this. How do you feel about that?
That's a vicious, bitter lie, from the pits of hell. I mean, come on now. If I do something and base everything on the color of skin, that's the very essence of racism. You would think, but in this day and age where everything false is true and everything is true is false, you can't say that. And if you say that, you'll get shouted down, you'll be called every vicious word in the book. And we just got through talking about this yesterday, about how when we speak the truth, we're still called white supremacists and neo-Nazis. That's where we're at in this day and age. It doesn't make any sense. Can you please show that other clip? Show the other. You want to talk about stupidity?
We're still going to bring up slavery.
Oh, goodness. Let's do it.
Let's see.
White people, we are not your problem. You are.
Should white people today feel any responsibility for slavery?
Hell yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Just got my Biden crack pipe.
You're disrespectful to the people who worked their tails off during the civil rights movement. I mean, like, have we done nothing?
Or white people that died to liberate black people.
Right.
Correct. I mean, it's
Never
so
mind all of that.
tone deaf. I mean, they're just missing this giant chunk of history. I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, Stephen, but is it not better in America today than it was pre-60s? Am I wrong?
110%. We were just talking about this last week about a professor, or was it this week, about a professor who tried to compare the Jim Crow era to what's going on nowadays, right? And the professor Watchlist. This type of language is very dangerous for America. This is completely dangerous for America. I can't believe that there's actually people who espouse this and actually believe it. I mean, you have these conversations, I'm sure you've had these conversations as well when it comes to the Hispanic community. You have these conversations with these people, and they really literally believe that things are just as bad as it was in Jim Crow. Like, how do you have an intellectual conversation with people like that? How can you convince them otherwise? The very fact that you're allowed to do things that you couldn't do back in the day just goes to show how we have progressed. Right?
So
but they can't get over that.
What do you think it was? Was it the education system? Like, what was the breakdown to where people, because they're also the same people that can't acknowledge that separating vaccinated and unvaccinated is a form of segregation, right? Like, they ignore like actual segregation today. So what was the breakdown? What did they miss?
It has to be, I mean, it's definitely cultural. It's definitely a cultural thing. I mean, a lot of times, you're brought up thinking a certain way. Generationally, you're taught racism and racist beliefs and whatnot. Also, it's definitely the educational system, it's definitely the media, it's definitely entertainment. It's all these things combined, and it just goes to show how ridiculously racist this country is in the opposite direction now, right? You want to talk about what happened in the civil rights era, that's going on right now, and no one's speaking up about it. The only way we're going to fix something is if you talk about it, daggone. That's the only way you're going to fix it. And what he was talking about, white people should still apologize for what they're still at fault. They even say in relationship counseling that if you can't get over what the person, what your spouse has done, you can't progress as a couple, right? You can't make it. You can't go forward to the future. And you see a lot of these people, they're so stuck in the past, looking in the rearview daggone mirror, and they crash every time, when it comes to whatever goals they have in mind, whatever things they want to do with their life, and they constantly crash, and they wonder why. You wonder why? Well, it's foolishness like this. They had that other show, Dear White People, right? Another show like this. And they constantly come up with show after show after show with this type of rhetoric, and it's inflammatory and it's terrible for America, and it's pulling us further apart. It really is.
They're having so much trouble finding racism nowadays that they got to go all the way back to there. Like, I know there was a dad, I put this out on Twitter, but there was a dad in North Carolina that was speaking to a school board, and he was saying that exactly, where it's like, it is so hard to find racism right now that you have to put a show together that needs to make white people right now feel bad. And also, too, it's just like, not only are they redefining the word racism, but it's totally devaluing it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because, like, there's real racism out there that we really should fight.
Absolutely.
And people do believe the word Black Lives Matter. Just like a lot of us believe all lives matter.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you start just using that to, like, make your own money, there's a reason Amazon took BLM Inc. out of their fundraising.
About time.
It's like, they're done because you have the leaders of that making millions of dollars and they're buying real estate for themselves.
Like, imagine if they spent that budget towards the schools in Baltimore who can't read or write at grade level. Like, imagine instead of just complaining about the problem, which I agree, like, let's acknowledge whatever the issue is, but then complaining about it and creating show and whining and complaining does not fix the problem.
Not at all.
They could have allocated those sources better in order to really raise the community if that is truly what the problem
what they
is.
wanted,
And it's easier to just point fingers than raise yourself to a higher standard.
Well, systemic racism is real because it's them. They're the ones that continue to propagate this. They're the ones that continue to push this stuff in Hollywood, education, music. The list goes on everywhere you look. But nobody wants to talk about the fact that the black community is slaughtering itself, and
100%.
Hispanics are right behind them. And black on black crime was at its all-time high under President Barack Obama. Go figure.
Boom.
The first African American president of the United States of America. So where's the real problem? Is it the white people, or is it the communities themselves that need to hold themselves accountable?
Professor Watchlist coming up next.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Osiga Kaku. I'm from the great state of North Carolina, and I'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
My name is Preston Para, and we'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle Clare from Bolingbrook, Illinois, and I will see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie. I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, I'm Johnny Richardson. I'm from Prescott, Arizona, and I'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
I'm Rachel. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and you'll see me at freedomsquare.com.
I'm Soraya. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I will see you at freedomsquare.com.
My name is Michelle DeGroot from Los Angeles, California, and I'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, my name is Emma Faye Redcan, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I will see you at freedomsquare.com.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got Lily Standley, MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Drew Hernandez. I'm John Root. Time to introduce you to the newest members of the Professor Watchlist. Once again, they made it because these people suck. This is crazy.
Idea.
But this won't surprise you if you know anything at all about Cal Berkeley. Man, you talk about one of the biggest leftist cities in the entire country. That place is a crap hole. A lot of ways. And I know my dad spent many times there in Berkeley. It was a little bit different there in the 60s, but it's gotten progressively worse from there. And then now you have professors at Cal Berkeley like Zeus Leonardo. What a name, though. I will give him that. We're going to show a photo of Dr. Zeus Leonardo.
Good.
There, so he's a professor in the Graduate School of Education. So some of the courses being taught by him are race, whiteness studies.
Oh boy.
We're now at that point.
Here we go.
Where we have
Whiteness
a course
studies?
like, it is so hard to get into a place like Cal Berkeley. And then think about that. You could be taking a course called whiteness studies in education.
Well, just remember, everything's going to be all white.
Thanks, Stephen. Also, too, I know it's like, I keep on forgetting, like halfway through the show, happy month.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
You're about to be, you're this close for being canceled. I want this at the beginning of the show, not at the mid. Well, we'll talk about it later.
Uncancelable.
Yeah, very close. There's a lot about you, Johnny Root, that's, I mean, even your microphone's white.
Right?
Jeez.
Goodness.
Audio guys, we
At
need
least
to
mine's
change this for the
black.
next show. This is not helping me out at all. All right, please. Especially during this month. Come on. Throw me under the I could only imagine what sitting down with Dr. Zeus Leonardo would be like. Because his work utilizes CRT to analyze areas such as race, class, culture, and gender in education. And then we've talked about it so much that they are trying to indoctrinate kids to like not only college students, but they want to get them educated in college, and then they go into these schools and then teach kids.
They're building activists.
Exactly.
To build more activists.
Here's where this stuff goes. So I tweeted this last night, and so Marvel's first Hispanic female superhero is going to make her real life appearance in Doctor Strange 2, right?
Yep.
She's Latina, she's Hispanic, and
Latinx.
Right, whatever, right? And the woke mob lost their mind. Like they're canceling the actress because
Why?
she's not a brown enough Latina.
Okay.
So this
totalitarian.
This stuff,
Right?
This is where this stuff goes, where it's
Yeah.
not just like an attack on white people, but it's like this racist, distorted view where this CRT twistedness even attacks minorities. It's like the gun
Yeah.
gets turned around and pointed on you at some point. So even if you're a minority, we were talking about this yesterday,
Yeah.
right? Even within the Hispanic community, you may not be brown enough. There's Hispanics that hate each other. Even in the black community, you may not be black enough. So it's just like this CRT propaganda, these doctrines of demons are destroying people's lives. Even if you are a person of color, you may not be color enough.
Yes, you're not enough color. Isn't that
Right.
just just insane? That you're not the right color, you're not the right shade of black.
Is
You're
that
the-
not?
That's, isn't that racism?
I mean, what?
And
We
but
have
get this,
paint swatches or
But get
something?
this.
Right.
But get this. On Twitter, they were saying that Disney was whitewashing the character by not picking a brown enough Latina. So they still blame it on white people. You see what I'm saying? This is where this stuff goes. Like it's never enough. It's
Yes,
never gonna
right.
be enough.
Cancel Little Mermaid, cancel
Yeah.
Snow
Cancel
White.
them all.
I mean, that's the trend,
Robin
though,
Hood.
and as we mentioned in like a couple segments ago, that these trends are not unique to one facet of like their culture, right? They extend across everything that they touch. So if they're going to be totalitarian in that, then it's totalitarian. That's just the way evil works and hatred. It's not enough to just get a little nib. They have to do all of it. So like that poor woman, that poor Hispanic culture. I mean, that would have been a total dub for them. And now
It's ridiculous.
they're
She's
not
brown
colored enough.
She's not
But
Hispanic
they're
enough.
the anti-racist though. Don't forget,
Of
okay?
course, yeah.
Watch your mouth.
Well, that's the whole point. Isn't that the whole point of CRT, to be able to call that stuff up? Yeah, you know,
I'm
diversity,
mortified.
inclusion, equity.
Unless
They're the right,
fine
they're not the
print.
right.
Well, they have like
yeah.
diversity and inclusion like councils now, and then Cal Berkeley basically has their own. So he's listed as an affiliated faculty member of the Critical Theory Designated Emphasis at UC Berkeley. And this is how they explain this. So the program explores the root causes of white supremacy and settler colonialism in education. So like it's another person telling you the reason why you're not succeeding or your family is because of colonialism, or if you're going to struggle throughout the rest of your life. Honestly, you make it to Cal Berkeley, like you got some really good grades.
That's the
Okay, like
irony.
ideology aside, if you're preaching victimhood, what fruit do you get from that? Like, I don't care what you're talking about. If you're on a track team and you're talking about how like you can't ever win or you can't ever run fast enough, did you get any faster? Like, I'm confused. How is this propelling any sort of progress? What is their end game if not to just sow hatred everywhere?
Also, too, they want dependence. So it's like it comes down to like a dependence on somebody that's just going to give handouts. Too, like there's a sense of like college is tough in a lot of ways. Like getting through college, just like you're out of the house probably for the first time ever, and you got to buckle down, get good grades. You got to show up to class. You're not getting driven to school by your mommy and daddy anymore. And then now you have people telling you where it's just like, you know, there's something invisible that you can never fully fight against, and it's always going to keep you down, and most likely it's that person over there that is lighter than you. That's what they're teaching.
It's like ghost hunting, you know. You're never going to find the ghost, right? You're never going to find it. And whenever they use these buzzwords like systemic racism, you know, institutional racism and implicit bias and all these type of things, you can't they never pinpoint it. They never can.
Right.
But it's there, and you have it.
And it's everyone has it.
And everyone
you have to apologize.
You have to. That's the only way. And you have to keep. You can't win. The thing is, it's designed. You can't win, and you can't get even, and you can't get out of the game. It's that simple. That's what it boils down to. You can't win, you can't get even, and you can't get out of the game. And that makes it's an impossible situation. And what am I doing with my life? It's absolute chaos.
But we know that confusion is not of the Lord. Like, confusion is from the devil. So if something that is that confusing and that chaotic and that problematic, people should just, you know, refer back to that. But that's a whole other conversation.
Well, that's why they say it's a cult. Basically, you bringing that up, you brought that up. We've all talked about that on the show. It's like this is their new Bible right here.
Right.
And these are their new prophets and leaders here that like that's what's going to tell you how to live your life, a more fulfilled life.
MLK's got to be rolling in his grave.
Oh,
I mean, whatever happened to judging people based on their character? But that would require some personal responsibility. It's just a difference of worldview. Either it's Rousseauian or it's Hobbes. Either it's the everything's broken around you. It's the system. You're good. You're trying to do good, and you have to tear down everything else around you. They're the problem. Or you put on your big girl boots and you realize that you're the problem and that you need to take some responsibility and work on yourself and be a better person and whatnot. But the problem is that requires a sense of intellectual honesty within yourself that is just too big of an ask for some of these people, unfortunately.
I'm just going to drop some theology real quick. I am under the belief that the Bible is very clear that in the last days we're going to be dealing with doctrines of demons and deceiving spirits and people taking heed and listening to them. CRT is a doctrine of demons because it has its foundation of cultural Marxism, traditional Marxism. And people might say, well, why? And a lot of Christians and even pastors, senior pastors, I was a pastor for like 5 years. And I talked to a lot of senior pastors that have no idea what Marxism is, which is dangerous. But it's a doctrine of demons, and here's why. Because if you take a look at Black Lives Matter, and they took this off their website as of right now, they're a self-proclaimed trained Marxist organization.
Correct.
One of their main tenets was they are seeking to dismantle the nuclear family. That's an attack on God's image. So if we get theological, we have to say this because we are made in God's image, and the family is not a governmental institution. The family is a heavenly institution that's been ordained by God, with a mother and a father in the home with a family under them. So whenever you hear a political organization or you hear a political entity come out and say, we want to dismantle your family, that's an attack on God's image, and shame on any Christian and any pastor that gets behind an organization that says such blasphemous statements, because that is an attack on God's image. Therefore, that's an attack on God himself because he's installed this for humanity.
And I think people need to remember too, like that America is not just like, I think from a godly perspective, like we deserve saving or something. There's way too many people that think, like people need to get that out of their brains. Just like start living a godly life, start instilling that in your kids, like start homeschooling your kids, start instilling that in them, and then start actually building a good foundation there. But stop believing that like America is like that. I think a lot of people get into the sense of like eschatology, where it's like there's bits and pieces. Obviously, we can look to scripture and be like, I'm trying to pinpoint that how it looks now, but like really knowing that like it doesn't come from like America. Like we're a great place, but there's a place where Jesus came from, and that's where Christianity started spreading across the world. Go make disciples and everything. That we need to get God back in schools. We need to get God back in your businesses. You need God back in your relationships, and you need it everywhere. But these people are making this their God, no doubt. Last thing I'll say about Dr. Zeus is there was a clip captured by this Twitter user, Myth Informed. I really like that a lot. So name. Dr. Leonardo said this, whites are not born white, rather they are abused by their white parents and raised that way. And we actually have that video. Let's check it out.
Become white. And her suggestion is that white children who were not white originally, they were born human. Little by little, they have to be abused into becoming white humans. And this abuse is sometimes physical, right? Of being physically disciplined into whiteness, such as being bullied into whiteness. That's a phrase I like to use, whiteness as bully. But also, it's psychological and cultural.
I'm so sick of this idea where people like to put out these notions that, you know, white people are this or white people are that. I remember Ashley Shackelford, she had this seminar, and it was all about disparaging white people. And she said that white people are taught to be demons, right? And you have a lot of this rhetoric. How is this? I don't understand how this is just not the very essence. We talk about this all the time, how this is not the essence of racism. How are you able to get to stand down there and speak this to your students? You're teaching students, you're teaching people to be ashamed of their color, that you need to apologize for your color, that your color is wrong.
Because they don't have any belief that they're made in the image of God.
Exactly.
That is the problem. They're preaching that they're made in the image of hatred or whatnot, and that it's learned. But if we were to teach children that you are born with intrinsic supernatural value, then we would not have these problems. Imagine that much, like the peace that people would receive. I mean, it's got to be exhausting going around being angry all the time. I mean, I honestly pity them. I mean, that poor man has so much hate in his heart. Imagine the chains that could be released from his soul if he were to just realize that people are made in the image of God and that it's not whole groups' fault.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. My opinion is we're not responsible for the sins of our father, but I guess we are, and so he's just going to build a bunch of little victims that are going to go around hating each other.
There's a little bullet point in there too. It says, what does it feel like to be the problem?
I mean,
Wow.
there's gotta be white kids in this
This is
class that
vile.
are just kind of like,
Vile.
what's up?
Come again?
That's evil.
It's totally evil, and there's got to be times where like kids are just like laughing at it. But also too, there's times where kids are just like, I don't want to say anything because might not be able to pass this class.
Right.
It took
It's
me
so heavy.
so much to get into Cal Berkeley in the first place, and we're going to give you this other member of the Professor Watchlist, and then we're going to tell you go to professorwatchlist.org to read the rest about this person. Dr. Treva Lindsay is an associate professor in the Department of Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies.
There we go.
Our
And
favorite.
then teaches some courses and specializes in Black feminism, critical race theory, and gender theory. Here's a photo of Dr. Treva Lindsay.
Oh, goody.
And then, get this, during a lecture at Portland State University, Dr. Lindsay, she was suggesting rehabilitating those who've committed sexual assault by teaching them to unlearn their toxic masculinity and innate homophobia.
Wait, what?
Give us again.
Yep, again.
Suggests rehabilitating those who've committed sexual assault by teaching them to unlearn their toxic masculinity and innate homophobia.
So like toxic masculinity is the cause of sexual assault?
Yes.
And homophobia?
And homophobia.
I'm so confused.
I think we should
I
just,
think
I
most
think she's
people-
just
I think
throwing
most
words
people are.
together, like trash can, toilet paper, flag. I mean, like, you're just saying things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense.
It's interesting how they make the connection with sexual assault to men. I just find
Always.
that very interesting, as
Yeah.
if like a woman can't sexually assault a young boy. It happens all the time.
Oh,
All
You
the
see these
time.
teachers in elementary schools
Yes.
or junior high schools or even high schools having sex with minors that are young
Yep.
boys. It's like, but see, this is what's interesting is if you're going to have like a moral stance on something, it has to be around the entire
Comprehensive.
compass, right? It has to be around the
Absolutely.
whole thing. But this is how you know these people are full of crap, and it's like a false
Yep.
reality or a false morality because there's only like one little lane
That's
of
it.
morality
That's
that
it.
exists. So that's how you know it's
One little
false.
sliver.
And then obviously too, she's not one of those people that just wants to defund the police. She wants the police completely abolished.
Because that would help
Yeah.
the sexual assault victims, I'm
Of
sure.
course, yeah,
for sure.
clearly.
Right.
Exactly.
Science.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not supposed to make sense. It's crazy. You want to learn more about these two and other crazy professors, professorwatchlist.org. We'll be back for one last thing.
You have to ask the question, how is the most heavily funded tribe have the poorest population?
Listen to me. My country is very because everything problem here. Don't have petroleum for Bush and Cuba, for car, for life, for nothing.
And it sucks. Socialism sucks. There's no other way you can describe it.
Do you like guns? Do you like ammo? Do you like suppressors? Do you like freedom? Do you love America? Do you like baseball? Do you like rifles? Do you like 9mm? Do you like pistols? Join me, Paige Rue, every week on Reloaded.
Good ranchers, straight from the American farm. 100% American meat, 100% of the time. Delivered straight to your door.
Wait, are those my Good Rancher steaks? I'll be taking these.
Claim your 10 free bistro fillets with your next order with promo code TPUSA Live at goodranchers.com.
This is your brain. This is your brain on socialism. Any questions?
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Got time for one last thing. Lily Standley, MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Drew Hernandez. I'm John Root. I saw this. I know Fox News was talking about it a little bit in a few different outlets, and they were sharing this op-ed by Andrew Yang. A lot of people, you probably know who Andrew Yang was. Ran for the left side during the presidential debates, presidential primaries. And he wrote this op-ed about like one of the biggest problems that America is facing today. And it's talking about how young boys are just utterly failing all over the place, and how kind of America's failing them too. And it doesn't get any better when they become adults. So there was some more information that came out that said boys are twice as likely as girls to be diagnosed with ADHD, 5 times as likely to spend time in juvenile detention, and less likely to finish high school. And obviously we've talked about so much on this show, like a society needs strong men, and obviously men that are going to be able to uplift women at the same time too. But we're failing these kids. And then once they become adults, suicide, overdose, alcoholism has surged to absolutely unprecedented levels over the past 20 years. And we're wondering why society's kind of going downhill is because we're not building up these kids. And I think a lot of it too is just feminizing boys and men, for sure, that they're told that if you want to be strong and care for somebody, open up a door of the car or a restaurant for a woman. That's like a showing of like toxic masculinity. Like a woman can't do that for herself or something. Like there's no chivalry anymore. And it's just like absolutely polluting this idea of how we need strong men and equipped men in society.
I think there's been a lot of inversion when we talk about this. There's so many points that could be made, but one I'll just throw out there is for the past 20, 30 years, we've seen the demonization of men, masculinity, which is going to have some consequences. And I think one of the consequences we're going to see with that is the role of the father is going to be neutered. That's not a pun. It's real. Okay? Like the role of the father is going to be neutered in the black community, the Hispanic community, the white community, across the entire board. So if we have sons, if we have young boys that are growing up in homes that are fatherless, which has a whole definition within itself. Anybody could be a dad, but it takes a real man to be a father. People that are actually taking responsibility, accountability for their own sexual actions. If they actually have a baby, not taking the cop out to kill it in the womb, or not just deserting the baby and actually sticking around. If you have to work 3 jobs, you get it done, you be there for your son, you be there for your daughter, you be there for them, because that's the role model that they need. They don't need Superman, they don't need Batman. Those are fictions of our imagination. They need a strong, responsible father in the home, because your behaviors, a lot of people don't know this, but like when you grow up, you take so much from your parents. Like you can become your mom, you can become your dad, because you've been around their behaviors your entire life. And if you're in a fatherless home, that's going to damage you. If you're in a home where your father is just not being the father he needs to be, and what's happening is in our society, we're demonizing those things. I mean, you take a look at like rap culture, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's glorified to not be there for your family, and it's glorified to just have multiple women and sex partners and just not be a real father. And
single mother homes is
single mother homes is doubling.
Last 40 years.
The point I'm trying to make, and I'm going to end right here. I'm going to end my rant. Is we need role models in the home, and because we don't have that, because we've been demonizing fatherhood for so long, we are now suffering the consequences.
Yeah, well, we've definitely lowered the standards for men through society with things like cultural music and whatnot. So then it causes women to get an unfortunate view of men. And now our society, like all women do, like modern feminism, is just so anti-masculinity. We have changed masculinity from being essential to being toxic. So it's part of this whole upside down world thing that the left is doing, where right is wrong, black is white, up is down, etc. And now we're seeing the repercussions of that. It's not sustainable literally as a society. And also they're forgetting that 7 out of 10 suicide victims are males, unfortunately. So how do you expect to go around demonizing and saying the most hateful, disgusting things about an entire group of people, saying that their masculinity is toxic when it's essential, and then not expect repercussions from that? So our families are dying. The nuclear families, but of course, it works right into, you know, if I was trying to destroy the middle class, I would do this as well. But it's unfortunate.
It's absolutely disgusting. I really want to just encourage our men out there to be men, to stand for your family, stand for your women, stand for society, stand for your kids. It's our job, and the downfall of society usually comes about due to us men not standing up.
Yeah.
And you look at the fall of all different civilizations. Civilizations rise on the backs of men, they fall on the backs of men.
Yeah.
So it's time for us to be men, stand up, never mind the toxicity, and just go for it. We need to go for it.
And your masculinity is not toxic.
That's
It's
it.
essential.
That's it.
Then men just need to be servant leaders too. At the
Yes,
same
sir.
time, like you can serve people, and that's not a lowly state. to
No,
be.
it's
like
not.
that's where you can like really make a difference in your relationships and your family.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are forgetting that. And there's men that are struggling right now, and I think they need to come alongside those people, build them up,
Find a
because that's going to make better families and better lives coming up. All right, Spillover coming up next. See you on Tuesday.
Welcome to our first ever political correctness and inclusivity training. First off, safety. Just want to make sure that everyone here is jabbed, right? Just kidding, none of my business. So I'm Dylan, I'm your HR rep. A little bit about me. I'm a white man, and I'm so sorry if that makes any of you uncomfortable. On to the first order of business today. We're going to be talking about diversity. And Josh, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Donde está la biblioteca? I'm from Colorado. I learned that from Dora.
Okay, second order of business. This is a mental health friendly workplace. Yes, Alex.
If we're really a mental health friendly workplace, what are we doing about the suicide rate of the birds? Because I saw 2 dead birds in the parking lot yesterday.
Alex, shut up.
Yeah, there's been a really big disregard for the bird lives ever since people in the office started sharing the birds are not real meme. Birds are definitely real. The government's putting chips in their brain, which is making them self-destruct and kill themselves, and we have to be talking about the real issues, or what are we doing here at all? Bird lives matter.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
That's what BLM stands for. That's not what it stands for.
She brings this up every time.
Why is Mitchell in a Pope costume?
Why are the snacks always feel like this?
I think this went really well. All in all, this is a great place to work, and we're becoming more politically correct every single day.
For all my design conservative lovers out there, you're gonna die at this episode. Joining me are 2 conservative women who are killing it in the design world. If you don't already know who they are, then you will thank me later. They are a few of the top experts in their field and have an eye for what's in and what's out when it comes to all things interior design and decor. Not only are they fabulous, amazing, chic interior designers and so talented, but they are both conservatives in a very, very liberal industry. Plus, I'm going to get the inside scoop on all the discrimination that happens to conservatives in the design world. Looking at you, HGTV. Then they'll let us know what's in and what's out, as well as some tips for those of you who want to revamp your home or a room in your house or your apartment on a budget. And then you'll get the tea on my apartment redesign. Hint, it's not as pink as you would think. Okay, let's go. My first guest is a TPUSA ambassador, mother, wife, owner, and principal designer of Mend Design, alongside her equally talented husband. Please welcome to the Spillover, Chrisi Hammer. Today's episode is all interior design related, Chrisi. So of course I had to have you on because this is your jam. Like, this is what you do. So did you always want to be an interior designer or do remodels?
You know, I came into this space really naturally. My mom was always interested in it growing up, so it was something I was familiar with. You know, I was sort of like organically always interested in it because she was interested in it. It isn't actually what I studied in school, though. I studied English literature in college. So
Really?
I didn't study it until after I had kids. And then I started getting back into my passion, which was creativity in interior spaces. And then it's sort of evolved since then.
I always wonder about that because, you know, there's so many things that I'm passionate about, and I didn't go to college. I went to like 2 semesters of community college. Then I started working my way up in radio, so I dropped out and I never finished or got my college degree. And I always think about that, like, you know, I'm super into true crime and forensics and forensic interviewing children and things like that. And I'm like, oh man, I wonder if I could go back to school. So that's super cool that later in life you chose, you know what, this is a dream that I have. I want to follow it, because I think a lot of women can relate to that.
Oh, for sure. Especially because in my culture, which is Christian, LDS, Mormon culture, the girls generally go to school, but they're married usually when they're in school. And then the goal is mostly get married, have kids, stay home. That's generally, which I think is an incredibly noble and wonderful thing to do.
Well, you live in Utah and your business is in Utah. And obviously Utah is like the mecca for these uber rich, like I'm thinking of the Rach Parcells, like the uber rich fashion bloggers that have these massive houses. So are a lot of your clients, I know you can't say who your clients are necessarily, but do you have any of these like huge?
I do. Yes. I don't think I can say who it is, but yes.
That's okay. I just figure because you're in Utah and everything.
Yes. It's incredible. And Studio McGee is based out of Utah. They have a really popular interior design show on Netflix.
I think I follow them.
Oh, yeah. Their work is fantastic.
Well, there's different types of interior designers and renovators. I mean, when I think of Shiplap, obviously, I think
of
Chip
Joanna.
and Joanna Gaines.
Yeah.
So how would you describe you and your husband's style and specialty? Like, what is your all signature?
Like in terms of style?
Yeah.
I would say we're very transitional. And transitional, to define it, is like a mixture of old world and modern. So like, you know, very traditional finishes, but with pops of modern so that you get the best of both worlds. I don't like to stay too stark in one style because then that's the only one you can follow. I like to be sort of eclectic in that. But I really like using vintage pieces to inspire sort of our design.
Me too. I really am into that too. Like a mix and match, some new stuff and then some stuff that when you're antiquing or go into these like, I don't know, gently used furniture stores and you find those unique pieces. I like doing stuff and having stuff that nobody else has. It's like a big thing.
Like you want it to look like you were in Rome and you went like to a super cute antique store and it's been there for 3,000 years and you found a door and you're using that in your butler's pantry.
Yeah, for conservatives especially, we want to look super worldly and cultural because with the mandates, we ain't going anywhere.
We ain't going nowhere.
We ain't going nowhere, so we can't go to Rome and get a cool little, you know, art piece or whatever. Okay, so how far were you guys into your career, owning your own business when HGTV came into the picture?
So we had started the business mostly as a passion project for me because I was a stay-at-home mom and it was very stressful, and Matt was great and was like, hey, you should do something that gives you like an outlet. So that was in 2012. We started our business in 2013. And then in 2016, we took on some bigger projects. And then in 2019, HGTV reached out to us. So it had been several years before they had contacted us, and they found us through Instagram.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Like, were you guys sending out pitches to networks, or they just saw your Instagram and were like, "Hey, we're interested"?
That's how HGTV does it. They won't take pitches. They only scout. So they will only take you on. They might take pitches from very old, like the Property Brothers have their own production company, so they might take pitches from Property Brothers before they've done much scouting, but generally that's not the way HGTV does it.
So when they reached out to you, I mean, what was their reasoning? What did they say they liked, or what was the idea for a show that they had that they thought you would be a good fit for?
So we tackle remodels and old remodels, and that's kind of cool. You know, we don't like want to tear it down. We want to rebuild and make it beautiful. And a lot of companies, especially in a place like Utah where there's a lot of land still, a lot of construction companies are building new instead of taking on remodels. And we specialize in remodels. So I think that was part of the allure for HGTV. They like that, you know, that an old house, make it pretty, make the family happy, you know, that sort of algorithm of shows that they like. They like the landscape. Utah's beautiful. They like the fact that we were Mormon. You know, I mean, people are always like, oh, look at those Mormons.
Right. Yeah.
People are always super interested in that culture. And I mean, that's why they brought the housewives there, because that's part of like, oh, let's get all these fancy women. And
everybody looks good. Everybody's very attractive in Mormon culture. Everybody has money.
Yes.
They've got huge families. I mean, it is prime reality show real estate.
Yes. Yeah. And they had tried with Studio McGee, our same production company, and they actually passed on Studio McGee before they made it to network. And then as our show was coming out, Netflix had picked up Studio McGee. So they kind of came out at the same time. But that was in 2019 before the world sort of tipped on its end and everyone lost their minds.
Okay, so everything at first is going smoothly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're so pumped. They come out, they do proof of concept, they do sizzle reels. It goes to the board of HGTV and then Discovery, because Discovery owns HGTV. So it goes to like several board meetings. And they get pitched, I don't know, 1,000 proof of concepts a month.
Wow.
And they picked ours. And like, oh, we love it. They picked 12 a year.
So once they pick you, how far in the shooting or producing process does this show get? Did it have a name?
Yeah, once they say, yeah, we love it, let's do season, we got these people, they're awesome, then it's a working titles pretty immediately. But that can change even up till the day that it airs.
So are they sending crew out and they're filming you guys doing renovations?
Oh yeah, the whole 9 yards.
How many episodes did you film?
Well, we filmed more footage than episodes because they had ordered the pilot to get approved from the board. They weren't even planning on airing the pilot when they got the sign off from Discovery in December of 2019. Oh, we love them. We're going to do 13 episodes, but let's get the pilot out and in front of the board just to make sure it's a great show. It wasn't even supposed to air. Then 2020 happens. Everything's delayed. Our show gets pushed back. And then we complete it and it airs in February of 2021.
Oh, so it actually airs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They call us and say, hey, we're going to air the show. Which we weren't expecting them to do. We thought they were just going to call us and be like, okay, we're continuing.
And they had paid you
filming.
and everything?
Oh, yeah, they'd done. And the production alone, I think, was like $1 million.
Wow.
For just this one that they did film. And then they aired it and they weren't supposed to. It was supposed to just go to the board and they were all going to sign off like they had been the entire process of saying, the Hammers are great. We're so excited. We love their product. They did an incredible job. There were no problems, no red flags. And we blew it out of the water for the airings. Like it was
the ratings.
The ratings. It was bananas. Like they said, we're going to we want to see how it does, which was weird. Like the producers hadn't told us that at that point. We're like, I thought we were just doing this for the board. They're like, oh, we want to see how it does. So this is in February of 2021. So remember, culturally, we're going through a lot of like cancel culture and all this is happening at the same time. And it airs and they say, we're going to air it right after a new episode of Property Brothers. So they're going to have a huge audience. We just want you to retain some of them. If you can retain half, we'll feel good about it. Not only did we keep their entire audience, we added another, I don't know if I can say the amount, but it was a huge amount of people. And this is from no marketing from HGTV. It was just grassroots.
Oh my gosh.
We hit up our influencer friends and we're like, hey, can you post that we have this episode airing?
Right.
And Mormons are always very interested in other Mormons in entertainment.
Sure.
So they're always like, oh yeah, we want to see what these folks in Utah are doing. So it just killed it. And we pulled in a younger audience than normal.
Were they wanting you to make your faith, like being Mormon, a part of the show?
I think naturally it would have, just because Mormon culture is sort of like lifestyle.
Okay.
You know, like the way that we live our life is very much in line with our faith. So I think that was probably part of it. Anyway, so we have these incredible ratings and we're just waiting for them to be like, okay, we're good to go. This is going to be the schedule moving forward. And they called us in, I don't know, maybe 5 weeks after it aired. And they were like, HGTV is passing.
Passing why?
So we're just as shocked as the producers that are telling us this. Like, what are you talking about? We've been working on this for 2 years at this point. Like, what do you mean you're passing? Like, this is so, what? And one of the producers on the FaceTime, I mean, they're crying because the production company is different than HGTV. So like production companies produce and they sell to this media company. The media airs it for ad revenue, so that's the way they do it. But our production company produced Fixer Upper, Restored by the Fords, literally every major show on HGTV. So they have a great relationship with them. And we were just so shocked. They were shocked. They were crying. We were crying. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is so, what? I mean, because our contracts were like 13 episodes,
And they'd already aired one.
I already aired one. And they said, and we knew the ratings because the producers had told us the ratings. And they said, well, you're just another white married Christian family and America's heading in another direction.
Blatant racism.
Like, it was so shocking. I my mind was like, what on earth does our race or our faith or our marital status have to do with any of this? Like, did we create an incredible product in terms of the show and timelines and relationships with the production company? I mean, everything was great. We're very easy people. And they were like, no, American exceptionalism essentially it's dead. And then they also said, this part's crazy. Had you been Black or Hispanic, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. You already would be in a 3-year contract.
So they admitted. It's not about skills. It's not about ratings. It's not, none of that matters. If you look a certain way, you're the one that's getting the shows. You're booking the commercials. You're booking the movies, or you're getting the promotion at work. Like, this is leftist culture at this point.
Yeah, we even had the president of our production company, well, in the presidency of the production company, contact us and say, I have no idea what's going on. Like,
did you ever in your life, Chrisi, think that you would be discriminated against literally for the color of your skin as a white woman?
No.
I mean, that doesn't even make it. It's crazy. Like, it's so backwards. Everything's switched.
Yeah, it's, and I grew up in Los Angeles. Like, my upbringing was hardly vanilla. Like, it just wasn't even something that if you do well at something, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you produce something incredible, and I think that's the sad part, is that Americans are losing all this incredible content and products. All these things we're missing because people upstairs decide that we need to have a racial agenda. Like, and it's not going to stop Matt and I from producing great stuff. All it did was inspire us to work even harder and create more things. But what you are when you do lower the level is you're now telling people of color or marginalized people that they don't have to produce something as great as the other people will. So we will rise and we will continue to produce great things. And we're asking them not to produce great things. You know what I mean? So it's like,
how much did you and your family, though, have tied up in this? Like, you were assuming that you were going to be making all this money from the show and doing all this. I mean, how did this pulling the rug out from under you? How did this sudden change affect your family business?
Oh, it was crazy. The sacrifice that because it was 2 years of our life. So not only did we turn down jobs because we had to be prepared for the load that we were going to take on. But we didn't sell our house because our house was part of the story. And we wanted to move, like, almost immediately when we were contacted by HGTV, we were going to sell our house. So we stayed in our house for an extra 2 years. They monitored our content, like what we produce, our likeness is what they call it. So we weren't allowed to like post without them, or, like, our verbiage had to be really careful. We definitely couldn't post pro-America, pro-conservative. Like,
nothing political.
Like that.
And how many kids do you guys have?
We have 5. We're blended.
Okay, yeah, because you guys both weren't married previously. Then you guys got married. You both have kids from previous marriages. So did you have to have a conversation sitting down with your kids and say, hey, guess what? Because we're white, we're not getting a TV show now.
Yes, that's exactly what we had to do. And with the little ones, because we have older kids, the little ones didn't quite understand it. And it was a heartbreaking day and it was really sad. But the big kids, and we raise our kids to be involved in a sense. So they already know this is going on culturally. Like, as a society, they understand. So when we said it, it wasn't shocking to them. They were like, yeah, that makes sense. Sure. I mean, the day before it aired, I was panicking, going through my Instagram like, oh my gosh, how can I undo all those posts I've liked from Larry Elder? You know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh, I have to unfollow all these people.
Big
Matt
layer.
has to, I was just so scared that our media presence was also going to be a problem in going forward. So, and I do think that was part of it. We had an American flag. They made us take it down for the show. And
I feel like we're in an era now where cable TV that's just not the prime source people go to get content. However, HGTV has seemed to really just stand alone amongst these cultural changes of everybody wanting to consume streaming products. HGTV is still, I mean, especially with like young housewives and things like that, like that is who still is really consuming that. And it's interesting to me that they wanted to drop you guys because they just thought you weren't diverse enough or that there would be controversy or whatever. And then, I think about another network, which is Magnolia. And of course, we have to talk about Homework.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know these people? So just a refresher here in case you don't know.
Yeah.
The show Homework on Magnolia Network came under scrutiny. It was pulled off the air when allegations were made against these couple renovators, Andy and Candace Meredith. Allegedly, they went way over budget. They didn't meet deadlines. They caused damages to like historic homes that they were working on. According to the Merediths, they felt like the timing of these allegations so close to the premiere date was on purpose to hurt them. I mean, what is your take as somebody who's kind of been in this world, in the interior design world? What are people saying, and what's the scoop on the Merediths and the show Homework?
So we don't know them personally, but it's a small community. Like Utah is very small. Everyone knows everyone, especially because of our faith. Like 6 degrees of separation is
They're
more
in Utah
like
also?
1. Yes.
Ooh. You're the perfect person to talk about
People have been messaging Matt and I since this came out, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, tell us everything."
Yes, tell us everything.
So we know that they have been like involved in some shady business deals before this came about. So we actually are perplexed as to how they even got on the network, because when we were on the network, they did a background check with us that was so intense. They were asking us about speeding tickets we had in 2007.
Whoa.
Yeah, like explain to us why you got this ticket.
Do they have a criminal record?
Well, I don't know if I can get into crazy details about it, but it's not. It was a huge lawsuit.
Okay.
And it was bad for them. And I think they lost their house, and I think it was really bad. So
they have a history. Yeah, they've got a history. Shady business deals are like scammery.
Yes. So we know a lot of people that have been burned by them. Like we know people personally that are like, oh, it's horrible. It's exactly what they say. And LDS people, Mormon people generally don't like lie about things just to get in the limelight. Like I don't see all these couples rising up to get their 15 minutes of fame to get the show off. Like it's just not in our nature as a culture to be like that. So I was always super skeptical of the Merediths saying, oh, they're just saying that because of the timing of the show. You know what I mean? So people said that they, that it was true and that they were burned and that they did some bad business dealings. And I honestly don't know why they thought they could take on a production like that. I mean, we had 200 people on our production. I don't know if that's really the number, but High Noon Productions, which produced our show, has hundreds of employees working on every show. So I don't know. And the Merediths took on the production by themselves.
Yeah, that sounds
and
stupid.
sold it to Magnolia. And my mind is just so
why
completely
that was accepted.
Like why that was accepted.
Also, they're white.
I know.
So when you see these other like shows that have blown up and stuff,
but they're not conservative.
They're conservative.
They're not.
Oh, they're not. Okay. So do you feel like they did find out about you guys being conservative and that might have played a part?
Oh, I know that they know that we're conservative because our production team knows. So. And I really think they stalk us on social media. Like, I think that they have someone that goes in and does a huge, I mean, on Bachelor, like if you've done, someone's getting that dirt from someone in 2013, what they did. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's just people on the internet. It's very well probably people within the networks who are going in and seeing, is this person going to come back to bite us as a network? And then the president of HGTV, 2 weeks after they canceled our show, was on Vanity Fair and did an entire interview about how they're going to try and diversify their talent.
In what way?
She said, I have this article pulled up right here. She said, HGTV is cognizant of a lack of diversity in its roster. We feel, quotes, we feel like we have probably not done the best job in terms of our talent, and it's time for that to change.
Starting with the hammers.
Literally. And this is coming from the woman who did ultimately put the axe on our show. We have, over the last year and a half, been actively diversifying. So year and a half, hammers are 6 months prior to year and a half. So we came on and signed contracts before all this stuff happened in 2020. You know what I mean? I mean, we're like, we fit the mold during contract time. So we think that we just went through all of this stuff and they had to air it to get their money back because the show was so expensive.
Wow.
So they needed the ad revenue.
Not stick with the show.
Oh, I'm sure.
So now where are things at when it comes to the hammers and a renovation TV show? Are you still shopping around?
Well, we do have a couple of options that we're still shopping around, and we have a couple production companies that we're doing things with. We have a podcast, Hammer It Forward.
And that's really relationship focused.
Yeah, it's relationship focused and family focused and business focused. And Matt and I are super transparent. So we just tell funny stories. We have a great banter between each other. So we talk a lot about all the things on our podcast. So we do that with a different production company. And then we have a show sort of in the works with another production company. So we'll see, but we're just so busy right now that it's kind of crazy.
That's
so we're
so
just
exciting.
taking it day by day and just loving it.
All right, so let's get into the fun stuff.
Yes.
What is your dream type of project to tackle? Like doing a full-blown remodel for a client or going in to really emphasize one special, unique room?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. Because we've done both. I would say my very favorite is when a client sort of gives me full reign and is like, I don't know what I'm doing. Here's the keys to my house. Contact me in 4 months when you're done. And I'll ask them a few questions about who they are and what they like, and then just try my very best to build them in the design and then watch them just be
so
blown
what's the
away.
most unique quirk or I don't know, feature or something that a client liked that you had to include somehow in a design or incorporate in a design?
Oh man. That's a hard one. For the house, the HGTV house we did, they always like there to be something super special. And this little couple had a bakery. Their parents had a bakery, and their little pie shop sign, I had to incorporate that pie shop. She loved it. She was like, I want this somewhere in the design. So we got some paintable wallpaper, and I painted the sign all in her craft room on the wallpaper, and she cried, and it was so tender, and had a picture of her framed in the little uniform she wore when she was a teenager, and that was really fun. I think everything else we do is so personal to the client, and I don't know if we've done anything super
What do you
quirky.
wish somebody would ask you to do? Like a project you wish someone would, you're just, please, somebody.
I wish someone said, I don't have a budget.
Right.
Because even our uber wealthy people, because we have very wealthy clients, even if our uber wealthy, and they still are like, what's the bottom line? And it just kills my creativity.
Yeah,
it's like it only goes so far.
Sky's the limit. You could do so many things.
I wish someone was like, I have $5 million. Go remodel my 200 and my 2,500 square foot house. That would be crazy fun. It would be fun to do like a vacation home too. That was like outside of just a different architectural type of home, like a colonial home or
Well,
stuff
you know,
that
I'm obsessed with Spanish Revival right now.
Yes, Spanish Revival. I would love to do that. Not one person has asked me to do Spanish Revival in Utah, so I would love it.
Okay, so do you notice interior design wherever you are? Like if you go to somebody's house or something, you're just like, oh, that looks terrible. Like, are
I
you
notice
taking
it
notes?
everywhere. Everywhere I go. It's probably so annoying. I'll be going to the bathroom like, oh, this is nice tile. I really like this tile on the wall.
Yeah, where'd you get it?
Yeah, where's it from?
So your
Screenshot?
partner on projects is your husband.
Yes.
I'm sure that that's super fun, but can also be challenging.
So
How do you
fun.
guys? How do you divvy up your roles on specific projects?
So he does all the yucky things that no one wants to do. Budget, project management, time schedules, you know.
The man things.
The man things, the construction. I don't want to do any of that. So we really separate roles and we mostly stay in our lanes. Sometimes when we're with a client, they're like, is this easy? I'm like, oh, it's so easy. And Matt's like, what are you doing? It's not easy. You know, and sometimes he'll try to throw out design type and I'll look at him like, no, you don't know what you're doing. So we're good. We're really good at staying in our own lanes.
I mean, it can be, and I'm going through this right now, it can be very expensive
Oh, it's
to
so
redesign a
expensive.
space, obviously. But what are 3 things that someone can do to start the process of redesigning?
Paint, huge. You can really do some paint and make a huge impact. Like I've been seeing a lot of people do 3/4 of the wall. So you have like a line or an accent. There's any number of things you can do with paint that can just completely change your whole house. I think finding a piece that you really love that's vintage and from a thrift of some kind, and going on Pinterest and figuring out a way that you can make that thrifty thing the most incredible thing in your house. So that's like super affordable and a fun DIY. I think that you can, because the paint is so big, I was like, oh, you can paint over your tiles even. Like they have,
Oh, really?
They have tile paint.
Okay,
So you
what
can
is your?
even
I'm
do,
doing
like,
a bunch of
stencil.
stick-on wallpaper.
Yes.
Is that okay?
I think it's very easy for people. I mean, it's not easy. Your hand will hurt so bad. Your arm. You'll
Well,
be like, oh my gosh.
I'm hiring. I have Catie, who's coming up next. Catie, who's my interior designer for my home or apartment.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
She's doing it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
So-
disaster. I can't even color within the line. So me trying to
Yeah.
put up wallpaper.
No, yeah, I normally don't suggest peel and stick only because my wallpaper person that does my application would just laugh at me and walk away.
Well, but
and
the
then I
thing
don't
is,
have
this is a
time to
rented
do it.
space, but
yes,
for a rented
for
space.
rented spaces, I think they're incredible. I think
Okay.
it's great, and it's budget because you don't have to pay for somebody. You can
Right.
just do it yourself. So it's an incredible thing.
What is in and what is out? What do people need to stop doing when it comes
Well,
to interior design?
People say shiplap is out, and it's so not true. The way Joanna Gaines did it is out. But if you look at any one of your Pinterest boards, I guarantee you there is tongue and groove somewhere in that house. And it looks so stunning and so beautiful. It's always in. It will always be in. Paneling of some sort will always be in. And wood accent walls will always be in. So don't let anyone tell you it's out because it's not. It really bothers me. But what is out is words on walls. Never, ever in your
Live, laugh, love.
Never.
We
Put
want to live, we want to laugh, we want to love, Chrissy.
Never put that on your walls. I don't love chevron. There's a difference between chevron and herringbone. I love herringbone. They're very similar. Chevron's out. No chevron. Let's see what else is out. I think that I think white walls are really in, like neutral walls. Unless you're in a small space, like an office or a bedroom, then I think you can paint it a fun color. But don't do your living space like blue or gray or no. It should be white and creamy, something like that. What else is out? I think we've maybe seen our fair share of cement tiles, patterned cement tiles. I think if you get really unique ones that aren't anywhere else, that's cool. But the ones
Where
that
are
have been
you
mass
shopping? Where do you
printed
think
in,
are the best cost effective and best quality, interior design type of stores or furniture stores or
that people can go to?
Yeah.
I think At Home is a good place for people to get a lot of good things that are knockoff. Amazon has really good stuff too. So does Walmart.
Really?
Yeah, they have tons of designer dupes. It's crazy. Studio McGee dupes. Target, they are killing it. In their
I got
interior.
so much stuff from Target for my apartment.
Their line is Studio McGee's line at Target is so good. And I think those are all super affordable.
What is up next for you guys?
So we're going to continue with our podcast. We're going to continue with our business. We're going to continue to try and make people's homes so beautiful, raise those babies right, live that American dream. And I was back there at your set, Alex, checking it out.
Yeah.
I feel like you need a refresh.
On POPlitics?
Yes, on the POPlitics set. Would you let me do a refresh?
Really?
Yes, I would love to.
Yes, I really, really would like that. It needs it so bad. Let's do
time.
that.
It's time. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh, let's redo the politics set.
Let's do it.
Chrisi, thanks for coming on the Spillover.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Strong and Sexy Fit. Strong and Sexy Fit is a women's wellness company that has been taking the supplement industry by storm with their powerful and unique formulas. All of their products contain full disclosure labels with no proprietary blends and no artificial colors or flavors. So you know exactly what you are getting in each scoop. They have unique, high-quality formulas and delicious flavors like, oh my gosh, eyes roll back into your head, yummo, like guava colada and lilikoi nectar available in their best-selling fat burners. They even have refreshing greens available in Hawaiian honey tea. I'd also like to mention one of my favorites, their industry-leading Goddess formula, which is perfect for any woman trying to balance out their hormones. Ew! Goddess uses an all-natural approach of vitamins, minerals, and herbs to help your body detox and achieve homeostasis. Benefits include reduced PMS symptoms, sign me up for this, clearing up acne, yes, less stress, better sleep, regulating your cycle. Okay, I just yelled, but because you guys know how passionate I am about that and more. See a full list of benefits on their website, strongandsexyfit.com. Try any of their products today and get 15% off with code SPILLOVER. As if Chrisi Hammer's story wasn't incredible enough, you get a 2-for-1 special today. I really wanted to focus today's episode on amazing conservatives doing phenomenal things in the interior design world. My next guest is another outstanding conservative woman and phenomenal interior designer. Catie Bouchard is the founder and creator of a nonprofit called Pen and Napkin. Okay, the name alone, I love it. It's so perfect. Even better, I'm always looking for creative and unique charities with conservative ties. Pen and Napkin is just that. And I knew you would fall in love with the mission of this charity like I have. If you're a design lover like me, this is the nonprofit for you. Here's what's really neat about it. Pen and Napkin helps families and individuals transition out of homelessness and human trafficking and into fully furnished and decorated homes. They have a team of over 280 designers nationwide who sign up to do projects in almost all 50 states. Pen and Napkin trains these designers and assigns them families and projects. And what absolutely shook me is that 50% of all families that transition into a home from homelessness end up back on the street. But when a homeless family is provided a home that's fully furnished, there is a 98% success rate in ending the homeless cycle in a family's life. What Pen and Napkin is doing is incredible, but there's something else too. Catie agreed to take over the redesign of my apartment. You've probably seen on my Instagram stories, Ruggageddon anyone, that I am finally getting grown-up furniture and an actual working theme for the first time in my life. I mean, I'm almost 30. It's probably time, right? So I wanted to have Catie on, not only to share the amazing work she's doing with Pen and Napkin and how you can help, but I also want to get the tea on what she's doing with my apartment, as well as Catie's own experience with TV networks in the interior design world. Yeah, she's got her own story too. And the insane story, I couldn't have written this if I thought of it, of how I was discriminated against for being conservative because of my furniture. Yeah, bet you weren't expecting that. Trust me, I wasn't either. Please welcome to the Spillover, interior designer and founder of Pen and Napkin, Catie Bouchard. Let's start at the beginning, Catie. You actually grew up in a family that has a lot of television ties.
Yes.
And grew up in a Christian conservative house. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my mom and my dad both worked in television. My mom was a producer. She actually is one of the first female on-air reporters in San Diego. So Anchorman is loosely based on my mom's life.
Oh my gosh.
Not intentionally. She just happens to relate to everything that happens in that movie.
Especially the mahogany floors or whatever.
Just like the creepy guys. Like I have this picture of my mom in the 60s where she's sitting next to a guy with her like Channel 7 pin, and this guy next to her looks just like Brick. Like identical. Like I kid you not. It's the funniest picture. I should have brought it. But yeah, she was an incredible reporter, and then she became a producer for NBC, and my dad was her cameraman. That's how they met. And he's still a cameraman today.
That's super cute. Yeah, and he works for Dr. Phil, right?
He does. Dr. Phil put me through college.
And so did you grow up? Were your parents always Christian, always conservative growing up, or was there kind of a turnaround?
My mom became a believer when she had me. She grew up in a very strict, like, Catholic girls' school, not really Catholic home, but she went to Catholic girls' school, so she didn't really like any idea of religion or anything like that. She left Chicago to pursue her dreams in California, and my dad grew up in a conservative home with a dad as a pastor. So my mom was super liberal, and my dad's super conservative. And then they met working together, and my mom was going through her third divorce and had a 3-year-old little girl, my older sister, and my dad was just there for her through everything. And my dad had just gone through a divorce because his wife didn't want to have kids. And then he fell in love with my sister, like, because she would bring her to work every day. And then they just became a family. And then, they had my brother, got married. And then when she had me, she wasn't expecting me. Shocker, surprise. Sorry, Mom. Late 40s, baby.
Wow.
She was like told that she was in menopause and she couldn't have kids. But then God was like, no, we need one more.
Oh my gosh. So then growing up like that, I mean, did you just was faith always a part of your life? Or did you, like, as you got older, feel like that's when you actually got saved?
No, it was definitely a part of my life growing up, because when I was born, I was like born with the mumps. And so was my mom had the mumps, and she was really sick, and I was almost stillborn. And there was like a prayer chain, and my mom got on her knees for the first time and dedicated my life to God and dedicated her life to God. And she started reading her Bible every day. And I never saw my mom not read her Bible. Like, it was every day. So we went to church every Sunday and heavily involved. My mom was the leader of the dance team. My dad did the sound and the camera work for the church. And yeah, it just was a part of our life, being a part of mission trips and doing all that growing up, going to church camp. Like, it was very, very much our life.
So was your mom on the side really interested in interior design, or how did you get into that business?
I think if it had to choose one of them, it would be my dad. He wanted to be an architect, but he actually dropped out of college because his mom got cancer. So he never pursued that and just started doing film because it made him happy. He was making videos with his buddy and just got into film. But yeah, I think my love for it came from my dad. He loves design, and I used to move my furniture around as a kid just to get my mom's attention. So she'd come home from work really late from a shoot, and she'd like trip over my dresser because I moved it. And I remember just being so little and like pushing my back up against the wall on my feet just to get the dresser across the room. I was just that kid. I would make staircases out of books and stack them up to my window so I could make a patio out on the air conditioning unit outside my window. I just always was designing ever since I was little.
And so did you go to college for it, or how
Yeah.
did you actually start making it into a career?
I actually went to Cal State Long Beach, which is a very liberal school, and I studied general design. So I actually was a part of creating a new design program. And because they had a degree program that was very flawed, they would you'd graduate with interior design degree only if you got into their interior program. But they had all these students that would apply and not get in, but they would never get a degree. They'd go to school for like 6-7 years and never get a degree.
Right.
So we created this general design degree, and I already had a job waiting for me. So I just wanted to graduate and go. And then I was working for a company called Tangram Studio, designing custom furniture.
And so you wanted to start this nonprofit because you witnessed something working as a furniture designer in downtown LA. What was it that really pierced your heart and led to creating what is now known as Pen and Napkin?
Well, we had just opened our showroom in downtown LA in the Pac Mutual building, which is a really famous building in downtown LA. And we were on the 12th floor, and it was this beautiful view. And I was looking out, and I saw this woman, pulling her dinner out of the trash, basically, and eating off other people's scraps. And I felt like God was just telling me, like, this is your new client. Like, I want this to be your new clientele. And driving into LA every single day and seeing people experiencing homelessness, it can wear on you.
You can either choose to shut it off or you can choose to see it, you know? So I couldn't shut it off. I just, it would be too heartbreaking, and giving money and food and little care packages wasn't doing it for me anymore, you know? And so I really asked God, like, I want to help. I want to do something. I was literally offering myself to be the hands and feet. Like, can I do something to help? And I didn't know what it was. And then I would say that was like the first moment where I remember like that, him saying to me, like, this is going to be your new clientele. And then when I was driving on the 405 freeway, actually following a boy for a date, and we were in traffic, and God whispered pen and napkin in my ear, just the name. I had no idea what it was, but it was such a cool name. And I was like, that could be like a design house. That could be a fashion line. That could be a furniture line. That could be anything. Like, it's a blank canvas. It really could be anything. It could be a think house where you solve problems and you get designers together and you solve needs. And I ended up telling the guy I was dating at the time about it, and he actually bought the domain for me and set up all the things I would need for a website, because he did that. He was in marketing, and he really encouraged me. And later on, 2 years later, when I was actually ready to start Pen and Napkin, I had to call him and be like, "Can I have my domain back?"
Oh no, that is so something that would happen to me. Let me tell you.
He was so sweet about it, though. He had no problem with it. He was so proud of me for pursuing it, and he was a big part of the reason why I was excited about the name in the beginning. So, but yeah, so Pen and Napkin started, and then I kind of sat on it for like 2 years. I just owned the domain, online website name or whatever you call it, and then I just waited.
What did you wait for?
For me to be brave enough to quit my job and pursue it. Frankly, like I wasn't ready to quit my job. I was making really good money. I was working with clients. Like, I got to help design Hulu's first office before they blew up.
Oh my gosh!
I got to design Pinkberry's office.
Okay, wait. This is very controversial. Fun fact about me. I love regular original tart Pinkberry yogurt.
Yes.
And I had an ex-boyfriend who used to make fun of me and say I like spoiled milk ice cream.
What?
Because it's got that like tart
No, it's
flavor.
so good. The original flavor is the only flavor. It's so good with
that's
strawberries.
phenomenal.
I love it. Yeah, I know. And
Wait, those are so like iconic, fun brands. Like when I
Yeah.
think about just the aesthetic of Pinkberry and Hulu, that's so neat.
Yeah. And I got to work with Urban Decay. Like, honestly, like some of the best. And the owner of Urban Decay is a doll. Like, honestly, like some of the best companies. And I was living it with my mentor and friend and boss. And we were doing it for like 6 years, almost 7 years. And I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave the relationships. I didn't want to leave knowing that it was going to blow up. Because now we were doing like, I think when I started, we were doing like 2 million, 5 million a year. And then when I left, we were at 9 million. And she's now probably 20 million a year.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of them. And they have a new name called Studio Other. But yeah, they're still doing custom office furniture and designing for all these amazing companies. But I had to leave in order to pursue Pen and Napkin. And that was what took me a couple years to really let go of that so I could embrace this, what I felt like was a call in my life. But again, I didn't know what Pen and Napkin was. I just knew the name, and I knew that I had to pursue it.
So then you take this leap where you're like, okay, I'm going to leave this cushy corporate type of job, interior designing for massive brands that we all know and use.
Yes.
And I'm going to start this thing helping furnish homes for homeless people.
Yeah. How did I get there? I told everyone I was going back to school. And I did. I signed up to go back to seminary, actually. And I got a scholarship to go to Bethel Seminary down in San Diego, one of their satellite campuses. And it was during school where I took a class in community development that we did an interview for this transitional living center in El Cajon called East County Transitional Living Center. We love you guys. Just a little shout out. They do amazing work. And I went there and I talked to the community director, and he said, you know, we do all this work for these families. We rehabilitate them, reunify them with their children. We get them jobs, we get them housing, but then we move them into their home with like a laundry basket with like cleaning supplies and, you know, some essentials, but that's it. They don't have any furniture, and they've lived on a transitional center for 6 months to 2 years. Like, think about that.
So they have a roof over their head, but essentially they're still homeless. They're still sleeping on the floor.
Yeah,
they have
empty.
nothing.
And for kids, that's so hard because they're coming from a transitional center where they have, you know, all 3 meals a day, a bunk bed, like community, like all those things. And it's beautiful. But then they go from that, which before that they were homeless. So going from that fully furnished, you know, little apartment to an empty space doesn't feel like a step up, right? It feels like a step down. But for the family, they're excited because they have their own place now. And mom and dad, in the first project we ever did in San Diego, the mom and dad were living separate because they could only have certain amount of kids in each room, and they had 5 kids total. So the mom and dad were in different rooms for 2 years. So this was the first time they could actually be in a home together as a family, and it was a big deal. But they didn't have any furniture. And so in that moment when he said he needed furniture, and I just left the furniture industry, basically, I was like the Hallelujah chorus, started singing. I had my aha moment, all that sacrifice, living on a farm in Alpine. Like, I did not know what I was doing. I went from the city to the farm, and I was so out of my place. And like going to seminary was hard because I'm not a bookworm like you. I barely read. Like in high school and college, I did design work. I love to draw, and so I was writing 22-page papers. Like, I was miserable, but I knew that this was the moment why I did it all, was for this moment to find this need. And I feel like we all have a need that we can take responsibility for, and this was mine.
So this is number one thing that pops into my mind, and this is coming from somebody who, I'm being completely honest, and I'm totally ignorant about, how to fix our homelessness problem in the country and everything.
Yeah.
So my first thought when I think about a charity like this is, when you're choosing these families, how do you know that they're not going to just, all this hard work, you furnish an entire house, and then they end up back on drugs or whatever? Like, are you picking these families specifically?
Yeah.
Are you seeing if they have addiction problems, or what goes into choosing which families you're going to furnish homes for?
Right. That's a really good question. And this brings up even a bigger question of like, some of the models that exist in like LA County with like housing first and rapid rehousing, it's lacking this transitional component. Transitional housing is so important because people need an opportunity to gather themselves, to heal, to restore, to get off addiction, whatever it might be. For the example of partnering with East County Transitional Living Center, the good thing about them is if they're coming from prison and they still have some things to work out, they go through that process at the transitional center. And then they have their counseling, and they have everything that they need, all the resources, all the supportive resources they need. If they have a drug addiction, they actually send them to a sober facility that they monitor and they work with. And so these people come to the transitional center sober. And it's really important because if you don't have that season of healing, you are going to just repeat. Like, history will repeat itself because you haven't really come to terms with your demons. You haven't come to terms with the struggles. You haven't faced your fears in that sense, and you haven't really healed. And obviously, if you're coming from a domestic violence situation, there's going to be years of healing, but there also needs to be supportive resources, like you're saying, in order for them to do that. We're not a house of caseworkers. We are designers. So we specifically come alongside caseworkers so that all their effort and all their work isn't thrown out after 2 years because the trauma of entering an empty home again is revisiting some of those past demons. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what happens. I think the reason why that statistic is so massive, like 50% of families that transition into empty homes will find themselves back through the system. I think it's because they feel helpless. They feel overwhelmed. As a lot of single moms, and if you're a single mom and you can't nest properly, if you can't give a bed to your child, that's going to affect your psyche. That's going to affect your ability to get up and go to work. That's going to affect everything.
And so you're talking about what Pen and Napkin does. These are transitional homes that you're decorating.
So these are the transitional homes we have done. We have decorated transitional homes in the past, but what we do is it's their permanent residence. It's their permanent housing. So it's usually Section 8 housing or government-assisted living housing, but it's not a transitional center.
Got it.
Does that make sense? But they still have access to their resources if we have chosen a family that is a graduate of a program. And that's where we've done both, where we've helped families that haven't graduated a program and they turned over and they lost all their furniture, and it was devastating to not just them, but to our team, for all the efforts they put through. But it's worse on the kids. It's devastating to give a kid a bed and then everything's gone.
Well, what stuck out to me about Pen and Napkin, and this is why I was like, oh, cute conservatives will think this is so cool, because I did, is at first you're like, okay, so what? So you guys are just like gathering furniture and then you just donate furniture to these people. No. These are, like Catie, like real interior designers, skilled interior designers. And you guys are making these homes for these people, like incredible works of art. They're beautiful. And so when I came across your Instagram and stuff, which we'll get into, I was looking at this as like, oh, this girl's got style. I love all this. I was like, oh my gosh, wait. So you're decorating houses that look like this good. I mean, like Pinterest worthy, but these are for people that have gone through, crazy hardships.
Yeah, they're getting the best.
Yes, and now they're getting this. And so that was what was neat to me. It's not that you're just taking furniture and just like, here's like, you know, some lousy bed or whatever. Like, no. This is special. This feels special for them.
It is. And it feels like the standard of excellence I feel like God requires of us to serve. I feel like so often, I think growing up in the church, I can speak to this because I grew up in the church, but I think so often we would see projects being done, like community effort projects, and they get the volunteers together to paint a mural, and it's like awful because not one person's an actual artist and it looks terrible. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just hire artists to do this so that it looks really good? You know what I mean? So being a kid and kind of picking up on that, and then later on in life being a designer, I asked myself, like, what could I personally take responsibility for in my community and then bring my best to that? And then giving other designers the opportunity to do the same is the only way I see that pen and acting can grow, is because we want the best to serve the least of these.
Well, you reached out to me to give me some advice on my own interior design fiasco with my apartment. And one thing led to another. Now you are helping me design my place after being a fan of my daily show, POPlitics, and the Spillover for some time.
Yeah.
I thought this would be fun to ask you. So based on what you know about me, from what I post online and share on my shows and everything, just my personality, you know,
what late night text message exchange.
Yeah, well, before that though, like what's
perception?
The impression, perception of me was, before actually meeting me and getting to know me. Based on that, what surprised you the most about how I was actually looking to decorate my home?
I definitely thought you were going to be more like airy boho, like light and bright. But then I never forgot that post about that art piece that you love so much. And so
the creepy picture of the girls in the water,
which is
that everyone hated. Like, what is this?
But honestly, it's now, having known you for a little while and gotten to know your style and your taste, it's interesting because it makes sense. It makes sense why you would want to come home to a place that mellows you out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That is such a good description, because I do feel like that. I have explained this to guys I'm dating and stuff before, because it's funny because every guy I date, when they get asked by their friends and stuff, like, what is it like dating Alex? Just what they know about me online and my shows and stuff, they always think that I'm always like, on one 100% of the time. Like, I'm super spazzy, like talk like this all the time. Because I do that when I get excited, like on the show and stuff. But no, at home and in my personal life and stuff, I'm very, very chill. I'm almost like a little bit more introverted.
Totally.
Because I'm talking and entertaining and stuff.
So much.
All
that you shut
day.
down when you get home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like with boyfriends and stuff, they're like, oh no, she's never like that. She's very, she's very, very relaxed and stuff. And so I loved the idea of having something totally opposite than what you see on the Spillover set or the POPlitics set. Just like kind of like a dark, creepy, not as creepy as like Kat Von D's mansion in LA. Did you see that she just put that up for sale?
No.
She literally has the swimming pool in the backyard dyed red like blood. I mean, that's like super gothic.
Yeah, no.
That's like too dark for me, but I don't know what is the style we're going for.
Honestly, I think we have come to terms with you are eclectic.
Yes.
So we started off with, I want it to look like Spanish revival. And then you're like, but I like vintage. And then you're like, but I like antiques. And I like dark and moody. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's keep going. And like we went back and forth a lot with different pieces of furniture. And she would be drawn to certain things and not drawn to other things that were surprising. But they would just direct me closer to kind of honing in on her style. And it's a lot of freedom with an eclectic taste, so it's nice. We get to have a lot more fun and play with color and play with texture and play with old and new pieces and blend them together. So
well, one thing I told you, I said none of that. Live, laugh, love, farmhouse, all white. Like, I'm done with it. I'm so over it, because every person has the same thing. And I have my entire life from being a teenager on, I always wanted to look and be completely different than everybody else.
Right.
This is going to sound so cheesy. And I think I've said this like a long time ago in an interview, but I feel like the song that defined my life was Anything But Ordinary by Avril Lavigne. When I heard that for the first time in 4th grade, I thought, oh my gosh, she's right. I want to be anything but ordinary. And my whole, that has defined me, my personality, my career, how I want to decorate. So yes, for the first time, we're getting rid of, all of the furniture and stuff I've grown out of. And so speaking of that.
You're donating all of your furniture, like a doll, to Pen and Napkin.
Yes.
And I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
But we did have a bit of a disappointment in that process.
So this is juicy, Catie, and I really want to...
I want to navigate this gently because I want people to understand that this isn't like a fair representation of pen and napkin. I think it's a representation of the divide in our country right now and people's inability to see past others' beliefs and others' political stance for the common good. They're not able to set it aside. So how we operate is we have designers across the nation, like Alex said, that have signed up to say, hey, I want to do a project. So when Alex said, I want to donate all my furniture, I was like, oh, that's awesome. You know, we'll get a storage unit, we'll save it for a family, and I'll find a designer that's in Phoenix that will take on a project for a family. We want to work with Family Promise out here, and I haven't reached out to them yet, but I'm going to. We work with Family Promise in Burbank and the Verdugos, so I know that they're an incredible transitional organization. And anyway, so before I reached out to Family Promise, I reached out to this designer, and she was really excited at the fact that someone was going to be donating all their furniture from their apartment, so that was going to make that easier for her. And she asked where the furniture was coming from, and I said, oh, it's from Alex Clark. And she's like, oh, I don't know who that is. And I was like, she is a conservative personality. Like, you can look her up if you want. And she just had this very negative response. She actually went to the TPUSA website. That was where she went. She didn't go to POPlitics Instagram or anything like that. She started scrolling, and she started... the more she scrolled, the angrier. You could hear it in her voice. She just got more and more angry. She's like, I can't be associated with this person. I think she used the word ew and yucky.
She said ew and yucky about me?
And I just was like...
tell me this far.
I was like, oh, okay. And I said, okay, so let me get this straight. Like you don't feel comfortable doing the project at all now, or you just don't want to have the furniture, you don't want to use the furniture from her? Because at the end of the day, there's still families in need, right? So are we willing to like put that aside and still do a project with us, or you don't want to do the project at all? And it seemed like she just didn't want to do this project, but I think that was her nice way of saying she's done with pen and napkin. So I think that was like the first taste of what this might actually do, being on this podcast. But I also recognize that it isn't about politics as much as she thinks it's about politics, and maybe we feel like it is. I was really thinking about it, and I was like, at the end of the day, if someone had a need and you were presented with the solution for that need, if you choose not to solve that need, that's a hard issue. That's not anything else.
She's yucky.
No, honestly, I think she's blinded. I think she's honestly blinded by her political beliefs so much so that she can't even see past that to the need, you know? And I wish, and what's so beautiful about Pen and Napkin is that a lot of our followers are liberal. I love that. A lot of them are conservative. But what Pen and Napkin does is builds this bridge over this huge gap and this divide, because we can agree that this kid needs a bed.
And that's what I don't understand. You're going to say that a homeless person, my furniture as a conservative is not good enough for someone that's homeless, who literally has nothing.
Right.
Nothing. My furniture is not good enough just because that I'm conservative. Like, that person, you know, doesn't care whose butt sat on that couch before and who they voted for.
They don't care, and they would never ask. And I never ask what my clients' beliefs are.
Yeah.
Like, I would never deny my client. I've had clients, literally, Alex, I've had clients tell me, you know what, I'm not going to need that crib because I'm going to have an abortion. Like, and I still did the project, even though my heart broke into 1,000 pieces, knowing that this crib isn't going to get used by this mom anymore. But like, I'm getting emotional because, you know, she couldn't handle another child. And so she was, you know, making that decision, and it was heartbreaking. But we still did the project. We still got beds for the other kids, and we still loved that mom.
Of course,
because that's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, wherever the furniture comes from, wherever the funding comes from, we're going to take it and use it the way God is going to use it. And I'm just so grateful for the designers that can see past that and see that, you know, we are going to unite in this effort, because they don't even know sometimes that they're working alongside conservative Christians. They're working alongside liberals, and Christians are working alongside each other all the time. During Pen and Napkin projects. And some of them don't even know it. I would say the vast majority of followers on Pen and Napkin don't know I'm conservative. The woman I was talking to on the phone with probably thinks that I agreed with her, because I didn't argue with her. I didn't yell at her. I just said, okay, I understand your position, that you feel like you can't do this project, and we'll find another designer for this project. And I hope that, you know, if you ever change your mind, that you come and you do a project with us. And she was like, yeah, I really want to do a pen and napkin project. But at the end of the day, who's the one that suffers in that moment? The family. Not you, not me, not even her. The only one that suffers is one more family didn't get served. We need as many designers as we can. And we have so much need around us that there's not enough designers. So for one designer to back out because of something like this, it was heartbreaking, but eye-opening.
Now, you've experienced your own discrimination from TV networks for being openly Christian.
Yeah.
Just like Chrisi Hammer was canceled from HGTV. I mean, their show was, like she described earlier, was coming out. That they had started filming. That was all happening. And then all of a sudden, you know what? You're white and you're conservative. We don't want to work with you anymore.
Dang.
So could you talk about what your experience has been working with TV networks?
Well, mine was before, like, the pandemic, which seems like a whole another era.
Right.
This was pre-COVID, even though COVID's been around forever, I guess. But yeah, I think it was a hard, it was a hard reality. We got hit with so much interest. We did, I don't know where to begin in this story. But basically, we spoke at a church and we shared like our mission. And then the pastor prayed for us at South Hills in Burbank. And one producer came and approached us and he said, you know what, this would be an incredible reality show. Have you ever thought about doing that? And I was like, honestly, I grew up in television. Like, I really don't want to do a reality show. But as long as we can protect my families that I serve, like my clients, and we can keep the integrity of the show and there can be a faith-based component, and, you know, he assured me, he's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it. And then before I knew it, we were meeting with 7 different production companies.
Wow.
So many people wanted to make Pen and Napkin a show. And I was like, wow, God, you must really want to make this a show if you're having producers follow me and find me from all over in this short period of time. It was bizarre. So I took it with a grain of salt and I was like, okay, Lord, I'm willing to walk this road with you. So we did interviews with so many different production companies, some really big ones too. And a lot of the producers tried to talk me out of having the faith component in there. And they said, if you keep it in there, you're not going to get a show. I'm just telling you straight up. If you keep it in there, you're not going to get a show. So let's just take it out and then we can talk about it once the show's there, once you've signed your contract. But it can't be in the contract. You're making things harder for us. We can't pitch this show. We can't shop this show. We can't, sell this show if you have that in there. And I stuck to my guns. And we shot a pilot with the first producer who approached us at that church thinking that he could make it happen. But no. And they pitched to everyone. But
they didn't want to have you be openly Christian on the show.
And they said it was probably because of that. It was mostly because, it makes it hard to sell a show.
Unreal. Well, here's the deal. I love what Catie is doing with Pen and Napkin. My birthday is next week. 29. She's 29, 90s baby. So in honor of my birthday, I wanted to humbly ask you guys, and myself included, to become care-servatives for the next week and donate to Pen and Napkin. And what's really cool is that my birthday actually falls in line with a really neat project that Pen and Napkin is doing for human trafficking survivors.
Yeah, so we're working with Cherished LA. They are a nonprofit that helps survivors of human trafficking and sex trafficking get back on their feet. It's run by a wonderful woman named Kate. I hope you get the chance to meet her or talk to her one day. She has an incredible story of being trafficked herself, and she felt like there was this gap in resources for her when she was getting out of the industry and trying to start over. She didn't have a lot of opportunities for jobs. She didn't have a lot of opportunities for real anything. And so she wants to be that for these survivors. And the Super Bowl every year is one of the largest events that traffickers take advantage of, I guess.
Yeah, they target women there, and they're selling women while the Super Bowl is happening.
Yeah, it's
there's
happening.
all these women being sold at the stadiums.
Yeah, it's awful. And there's going to be actual rescues happening, and they're one of many organizations that have been a part of this process in helping all these women and children. Unfortunately, there's going to be more children than ever this year. They're anticipating an increase of 300%.
Oh my gosh.
And it's heartbreaking. So I think once the women are rescued and brought to the facility, they're going to be walking into a fully furnished and decorated home. Kate got another house donated to her. So she has 2 safe houses now, and the second one has never been furnished. It was completely empty when she got it. We replaced the carpet in both houses because it was pretty gross. And we've spent a good amount of money on furnishing the one house, and then we still have to furnish the other one. But yeah, we're fundraising for that right now.
Amazing. So any donations made to Pen and Napkin over the course of the next week, that will most of that will be going then towards that project for the human trafficking survivors to have fully furnished homes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where should conservatives go to donate to Pen and Napkin?
penandnapkin.org/donate.
Awesome. Catie, thank you so much for coming on the Spillover today. I'm so excited for everything Pen and Napkin is doing, and I also cannot wait to see what you do with my apartment.
Oh my gosh, let's go shopping.
You know what's unifying? The arts, music, art, design, all of it. It brings people from different backgrounds together. A liberal and a conservative can look at the same design and both love it. We can buy the same clothes and dance to the same songs, and for a moment, we forget that we don't agree on everything, and that's a good thing. Chrisi and Catie aren't just concerned with politics. They are concerned about people and their needs and what they can do to solve those needs. I promise you, when the left and right come together to give a kid their dream bedroom, they aren't thinking about politics. They are thinking, wow, I'm so glad that this kid won't be sleeping on the floor tonight. When we can set our differences aside, we will start to see the unification we need to heal America. It starts with everyday people in every field who are willing to work with others without politics in mind, just like Chrisi and Catie. Before you go, don't forget to check out Pen and Napkin to see how they are impacting communities at the local level in such special ways. And then if you're able, I really, really would encourage you to make a donation to help their work. I don't usually ask you guys for much, but this case in particular is so near and dear to my heart, and it would just really make my birthday. And then show the Spillover some love by leaving a 5-star review. Leave a comment describing your interior design style. I'm really curious to know. I love getting to know you guys through those comments and reviews. Share this episode and make sure you're subscribed and in the know. Obviously, be following my daily show at POPlitics on Instagram too, because Chrisi is going to be redoing our set. I cannot believe it. I'm so excited. As always, new episodes of The Spillover drop every Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific and midnight Eastern on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Watch this interview by subscribing to POPlitics on YouTube. I'm Alex Clark, and this is The Spillover. Love you. Mean it. Bye.
Big dog status, I'm a big dog vet. I pull up on the block in a big Corvette. Yeah. Ride around the city with a stick all black. Try with a stroke, but we ain't with all that. Yeah.
How much does the earth cost? I'm gonna buy the entire earth.
Hey there, it's John Roots. Stick around because coming up next on TPUSA Live, Alex Clark brings you a brand new episode of POPlitics covering Lauren Lane going off about mass, Yellowstone star saying yeehaw to freedom of choice, and so much more pop culture without the propaganda. Next on POPlitics.
I am not ashamed of having hemorrhoids, and I will not let no one shame me for having hemorrhoids. Stay in your lane. You get it or you don't.
Pink cowboy hat lesbian loves forbidden jelly beans. Okay, thank you, that's enough.
Next.
Lauren Lane absolutely destroys the notion that children should wear masks. A Yellowstone star won't be attending the SAG Awards because he's standing up to juice mandates. A new documentary about Olivia Rodrigo is coming out, and the Freak of the Week continues to make enemies. I'm Alex Clark, and this is POPlitics. Have I told you yet that I am obsessed with Chris and Lauren Lane? I love their relationship. All they do is laugh.
Go, 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 go.
Wait, this is my fave.
Ew, honey.
Babe!
Ew.
Brief history lesson. Lauren won Ben Higgins' season of The Bachelor. They got engaged, they broke up, and now she's married to country singer Chris Lane, and they have a baby, Dutton. A few days ago, she slammed mask mandates for kids on her Instagram story, saying, "Young children cannot learn with a mask on, period, point blank. This is cruel. I am thankful we are able to travel for now to see family because Dutton is not to, and in my heart, I know for a fact he would never keep a mask on at the young age of 2. Then she referenced the Super Bowl, saying, "I'm not anti-mask, but if you let 75,000 people gather in a stadium, childcare programs with toddlers can lose the masks. Who is representing the children?" Another star speaking out against mandates, this time about the juice, is Yellowstone star Forey J. Smith.
It's like a mechanical bull or something that I could try first. Just
mechanical bulls are for drunk chicks at the county fair.
Yellowstone is nominated this year for a SAG Award in the Drama Series Ensemble category. But Forey, who plays Lloyd Pierce on the show, isn't going. Why? He said, "I'm not juiced. I will not get juiced. I haven't been juiced since I was a little kid. I don't juice my dogs. I don't juice my horses. I've never had a flu shot. I never will. I believe they compromise your immunities."
Yeehaw! Yeehaw! Yeehaw!
Oh, why does Disney have to be a bunch of communists? But I'm still excited about this new documentary about Olivia Rodrigo coming to Disney+. It's all about the making of her debut album, Sour, and it's called Driving Home to You. The only trailers I could find were like bootleg versions, and it's only a few seconds long, so it'll be fine.
What was going on in the back of my head in a way that was proud and not ashamed. The album is due in 7 days. Oh my god. Coming from this place of hurt and you manage to turn it into something that you're proud of, there's like nothing better than that.
Documentary comes out on Disney Plus in March. I will be watching, most likely though, through someone else's login. Will you?
Got my driver's license last week, something we always talked about.
Betty boy, you know what to do.
I said certified free. Free! 7 days a week.
You've got to be kidding me. The Tinder swindler Simon Leviev has a Hollywood agent, and he's wanting to do either a dating reality show or a podcast about dating do's and don'ts. Dating don't give a guy you just started dating a loan for $25,000. A reality dating show, though? I might watch. Imagine him as the next Bachelor. But a podcast, you're out of your mind. He's a faux for show.
No.
You know how I've been posting all my behind the scenes of redoing my apartment on Instagram? Well, today's newest episode of The Spillover is all about interior design. Not only what's in and what's out, but also being conservative in the design industry. I talked to my interior designer, Catie Bouchard, and founder of the nonprofit Pen and Napkin about my design process and how someone didn't want to take my donated furniture for a homeless family because I'm conservative. Also, I talked to Chrisi Hammer, who had a show with HGTV that was dropped because she's white and a conservative. Listen now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just subscribe to The Spillover and leave a 5-star review. Before you go anywhere, please like this episode. Do you watch Yellowstone? I just burped. DM this episode to someone who loves the show and tap the save button. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is POPlitics. Support POPlitics, the first ever conservative pop culture daily show, by subscribing to our channel, turning on notifications, and of course, hitting the thumbs up. Also, our main home is on Instagram. Seriously, just trust me, that's where the real magic happens. Follow us there at POPlitics.